Greetings, weary travelers. Come, warm yourself by the fire, and let us regale you with mighty tales, tales of adventure, tales of heroism, and of course, tales of Tamriel. This is episode 292, first one of the new year, and this week we have special guests, both Nefas and Skinnycheeks, and we are going to kind of dive into, we'll do a quick overview as some stuff has gone down since the last episode, right before the switch into the new year. And we'll talk about the trailer briefly. There's still very little until the 27th where we actually get the full reveal. But much like we've had a couple shows prior to dealing with topics like, you know, how to get into the Elder Scrolls, stuff like that. Deltia kind of explained his coming back to the Elder Scrolls Online after a while. This time we're kind of going to go to the opposite end of the spectrum and just kind of discuss the different aspects of Endgame in its various forms, I guess, and also kind of sort of the path to Endgame, which is where things get a little dicey at points. So, I actually didn't even check the iTunes reviews, but I did note that a ton of you have been nice enough to give us 5 stars on Spotify now that they have a rating system over there. So greatly appreciate it. Again, I have zero idea if that actually means anything, but it makes us look like we know what we're talking about. So strongly approve. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you taking the time for that. So we will just kind of kick things off right out the gate with the trailer, and if there's anything to kind of discuss on it. Do either of you have any strong anything about the trailer? I mean, it was short to say the least because it's a teaser of the trailer, but anything either of you have, positive, negative, uninterested, super interested ideas on what the hell it is?
Rich said there were clues in that teaser, right?
He did.
Sure.
He did, and he also told us that apparently nobody's exactly gotten it right yet. I mean, mine was just straight up wrong because it was like, oh, it's going to be the red guards with the crowns and the forebears, and it was like with the water. I was like, cool, okay, so it's going to be like the piracy thing, and then they showed like Brett and everything. I was like, never mind, I'm just wrong. So
I just don't want to shave my hair.
Definitely Brendan. Sorry, Nefas.
No, it's okay. So with what they said before the teaser released, they want to dive into a culture they've never dived into.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rich was interviewed. No one's talking about this interview though, where he asked the interviewer the question, like the rhetorical question, "What happens once you fill the map?" Right. So I think they are setting up a new area of Tamriel, just not in Tamriel. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, yeah.
One of the islands, something like that. It definitely does seem like that's more of the direction they're going. Also, for anybody who might not know, since I really am amused by the bet, what is the shave your head bet, by the way? Just so everybody knows.
If it's a Brendan chapter, I'm shaving my head. I strongly believe it's a Red Guard related chapter. There's no way, dude. Brad, why would you make a Brendan chapter? What's so interesting about Bredens? Give me one interesting fact about Bredens right now.
They have really good spell resistance. Oh wait, that's not interesting.
I mean, maybe that's why they're doing this, though. They want to give you some fun facts about Bretons.
Yeah,
I don't know. What's a fun fact, though?
I know. It's funny. I like being Bretons in the single-player game because you can cheese Magicka with them really well. And I don't think actually, it's one of the only races I've never even tried in ESO. I've only used them in the single-player games because they get some sweet stuff you can break in the single-player games. But yeah, I don't think I have a single Breton.
I have a few.
Do you?
Breton's pretty solid.
I was going to say, I know they were the Magicka hotness at a couple points for different things because they get the reduction, right? That's their gimmick, like in cost. Is that them? Yeah, okay.
Magicka cost reduction and Magicka recovery.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thing. But yeah, so you know, if you're interested in a really over the top deep dive, feel free to check out the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, which is the other show that I'm part of, where we spend I don't know, I think me and Robot spent an hour and 3 minutes somehow on an 1 minute and 7 second trailer, and Yeah, he analyzed it like really, really in depth. He made some great points. I don't necessarily think I agree, but he at least defended what he said pretty well. I'll be very curious. I mean, it definitely makes me miss like having one of these event things like ESO Vegas, but the world keeps exploding, so we don't get to do stuff like that anymore. So hopefully one day. Hey, puppy.
I saw someone saying, "Oh, the three factions are sailing in together. They must be closing down Cyrodiil."
Yep. I've been okay. So that's a big one that I've actually been hearing a lot of, where people are like, "Oh, yep, they're closing down Cyrodiil." It's like I fit. So whatever. This will be. I mean, the old endgame for ESO for longtime players kind of knows that like originally it was kind of. Cyrodiil was your end game way back in the day, because Craglorn didn't exist, and then Craglorn had 3 trials, and that was the extent of your trials, and there was Dragonstar Arena. What are you doing, puppy? But as much as the long heated debate on Cyrodiil has been raging, it seems like if people, I mean. Yes, okay. You know, we've had several shows on this where it's definitely not the majority that you seem to like Cyrodiil, and Cyrodiil's largely been ignored for the most part, PvP in general. But it would take even more work to close it down than to just leave it as is at this point. Like, I can't imagine the 3 Banners War thing just ending because of something like that. You just leave it in the background or whatever. However they want to do it, you know what I mean? Like I cannot imagine them like removing that concept from the game. That just seems too out there.
Yeah. But going back to the trailer real quick.
Yeah.
Can we talk about some stuff?
Hell yeah.
Why is EP so poor? They can't afford a ship.
Look, okay.
And people are, that's a longbow. But then if you look closely, you know, when the AD and DC ship are colliding against each other in the storm, right? The EP ship is the only ship away from them, and they flip over.
Look, all right, we don't have the best sailors.
What? Nords. Argonians.
Well, and that's just it. How good do you need to be as a sailor when you're an Argonian? You just swim to shore when you realize you capsized. Yeah, it's I take that back.
It's like looking for clues, because Rich was like, "Oh, there's clues in the teaser." I looked over. I'm like, "Well, EP can't afford ships. EP's gonna flip over. What's going on here?"
I'm personally offended.
I didn't know Rich said that, so I haven't.
He did. He actually one of the things that he said on one of the last, I think it might have been on stream, was the fact that I think he said something about like they put in like too many clues compared to what they wanted, like some of their other trailers, so they thought they made it too easy to figure out, which I don't know if he's just trolling people, trying to make people like overanalyze stuff or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. He definitely made some comments about that. There being clues in there's plenty of them. Theoretically, I guess we're supposed to be able to, we have the potential of figuring out what it is from that trailer, so teaser trailer, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I had a better guess from the last year's one, or even the one before that, than with this one. Also, if they do their yearly promo thing that they do, like last year was the coins in the letter, the year before that was like the maps that people pieced out. We're gonna get ships in a bottle.
Gina did ask me for my address.
See, there it is. See, that's just it. That's the first sign. That's the first sign. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see when that actually happens. If those will arrive before the trailer or after, because like that's the thing. Usually that's another round of getting people to scratch their heads and try to figure stuff out. So until we see that, I'm curious if that'll give us a huge clue, or if it'll just be something else, just on a wild goose chase type of thing. Any other super deep theories on the trailer?
Do you have any theories, Skinny?
Not really. I haven't really analyzed it. I didn't know there were that many clues in it.
It's just 3 ships. There's a map. They're heading towards an island off the west coast of Tamriel.
Yeah.
What it seems like.
Yeah.
And there's a storm. There's a bread and soldier that like clears the map of the ships.
Yep.
Goes out to watch the ships fight or something. I don't know. Like struggle.
Yeah, it seems like they get caught in a storm, which just looks like Malmer stuff. And then they kind of come back. That's all we get.
Yeah. There's a lot of crazy theories out there. Like it's Pandonia.
Yep.
Are we gonna get Malmer as a playable race, or it's Activeir, which is not good because Todd Howard said like they're never gonna explore Activeir.
So,
and there's a new race, or no, sorry, new class. I'm like, no way. There's no way.
it seems like, I know the new class is something. Since I don't like playing multiple characters, I don't want a new class. Give me a new skill line before a new class. But like some people love the new class thing. I do not. I really like playing whatever my character. I'd rather a class change token or something before I want another class. Like it's just personally that is not my gimmick. But I know most people play like 10,000 ults type of deal. So like I'm definitely in the minority on that one. That's like, yeah, I've got my character. I even have 2 characters, but it's like, well, whatever. I don't jump around unless we get some type of universal achievement journal, so I can be an achievement whore and actually have them all count. Breaking that stuff up is not what I want to do. So it's because it's separated like that. You basically have to restart every time, and that's no good for me. I don't like that stuff. I don't like that stuff at all.
Yeah, my achievements are pretty spread out. It kind of sucks.
I know. That's and cynically, there's some degree, but at the same time, even like cynical aside, because a lot of people are like, oh, they can't sell you sky shards and stuff. You can still totally sell that stuff, even if we had a shared achievement journal, because essentially it just reads your achievement journal and it's like, okay, you've done it on one character, you can buy your sky shards on another character. It's like, well, you can still do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to give them the points on the other characters. It's just a universal character journal. That's one of the things that I hope we kind of get as a, I don't know, quality of life thing that we might get next year in my like things I'd like to see. Other than cross-save of some type, which I'm starting to lose hope on after all these years. Cross-play I've given up on, but I'm still down with cross-save. But yeah, I would love some like cross-achievements across my characters. That would be something I'd really like. All right. So the reason I brought both of you here, because I figured both of you would have really good insights. As spoiler alert, when I usually use guides, it's the 2 of you when I do stuff. So I when discussing in-game stuff, you're actually kind of like my top 2 choices. So the fact that both of you said yes to joining the show, even on the same week, is kind of ideal here. So you both not only do a decent amount of endgame, you write guides, you're involved with the community, you're both on the ESO stream team, so you're streamers, people watch what you do. Either one of you is more than welcome to go first. What do you have as a background in MMOs? And then like compared to what did you get into when it came to this game? What keeps you here? And what is your specific end game? Because again, there's PvP, there's PvE, there's all sorts of stuff. So give me some background from either of you. It's it doesn't matter who goes where first or anything like that.
Go ahead.
No, you should go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
Hell yeah. By all means.
So background, 0 background in MMOs.
Sweet. Okay, so I'm not alone.
Yeah, I mean, I came over because I loved the Elder Scrolls. So I started with Oblivion and then fell in love with the series after that. And of course, when Skyrim came out, it was my life for a few months. And then I heard about ESO coming out, and I was like, I had that itch, for some more Elder Scrolls action.
I hear that.
I jumped in at launch. I played a little in the beta and then at launch, and only made it about 4 or 5 months. and I was doing the vet rank grind thing, and decided it wasn't for me at that time. I was like, I don't know. I'm gonna go play Fallout now, and I think Fallout 4 had just come out around like that time period that I stopped.
Yeah, I think it was like a year before or a year after.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah,
but I know that's what I was doing after I left ESO initially. I was all in Fallout, and I kind of stayed away for a little bit, and then one of my buddies was having the itch for an MMO. He used to play WoW, and I was like, oh, well, I played ESO for a little bit when that came out, and that I've seen they've done a lot of updates to it. So you want to hop in that and check it out? I'll make a new character, and we can just run around together, do whatever. And so we did, and well, that was right before one Tamriel. So
that changed a lot.
Yeah. So it was about a month, I think, before one Tamriel that we started. And yeah, that was such a good change, and we were having a blast. I was a healer and he was just doing a DPS, and we were just kind of duoing everything together, just running around the world, doing some like normal dungeons too. And yeah, we were having a lot of fun and just kind of slowly progressed. I never tried to grind to get to any certain point in the game. It just kind of slowly unraveled and got there, I just kind of let the game take me where it would, so yeah. And I mean, as I kept playing and getting into higher end content, I started doing some guides and stuff like for guildmates and just people that I knew, like, hey, I've been testing this. I've always really liked just testing stuff and theory crafting. And so, yeah, I just kind of rolled with it, and I started posting some of it on YouTube because it's easier to like distribute it to people that way. Not because I was really trying to like grow a YouTube at the time or anything, but people started like subbing to my channel and stuff and like saying, hey, I like what you're doing here. So I was like, well, this is fun for me too, so I guess I'll keep doing it.
That's a pretty good method to get to where you're going. Well, it's funny. That's shockingly similar to myself. So that's kind of funny to hear. A lot of times people have like a pretty decent background, and it's just like, oh, I love MMOs. So this was just like, I also love Elder Scrolls. And I'm like, yeah, I literally only picked this up because it's Elder Scrolls. And I straight up just didn't like the game when I first played it, just like at all, because I was like, what is this? This is terrible.
Did you play at launch?
I actually played on my friend's beta, and I was like, I guess I'll skip this Elder Scrolls game. And I kind of did for a while, and then I ended up getting back into it when it hit. Like I messed around with it a little bit, and I was just like, this is not really great. So then I ended up playing it later once one of my friends had picked it up on console, and I was like, oh, this seems a little more stable. I knew it was buggy, but that wasn't even the thing that really kind of did it for me. I was just like, this is weird type of thing. And I don't know, maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it, but I was like, oh, this actually seems pretty good. And it had gone down in price. Like, I mean, it was pretty expensive on console because it was new, but I jumped into it there, and I was kind of like, oh, all right, I might mess around with this. Maybe I'll just do it for the story. And then it was like, okay, well, I did the stories, but I kind of still, it's like, oh, well, doing it with friends is kind of cool. Oh, no, there's these dungeon things. These are kind of neat. Oh, this PvP thing's kind of interesting. That's weird. Like, and I just kind of kept progressing, and now I'm like, yeah, I OCD basically do anything I can possibly do in the game.
Yep.
But how about you, Nefas? How did you get started?
Man, God, such a wild, long story. But yeah, I do have previous MMO experience.
Okay.
And a lot of online game experience. Tried a lot of MMOs before, including Korean MMOs. Never again. And I'm Korean. Oh my God. I got burnt on those games, and I was like, I don't think MMOs are for me. And then, as life went by, I got more interested. I'm a very competitive person to a degree, and I got into like MOBAs, even consider going pro and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, like the impermanence of those kinds of games, whether it's FPS games or MOBA games,
sure,
like Dota or League, it's like it gets exhausting. So MMOs, I think, are really nice for people, or including myself, because it has permanence to it to a degree. You know, like if you do something, it stays. If you get an achievement, it stays. In a game like League or Dota, you win the game, and then what? You start over in the next game.
Right.
And then after that, you start over in the next game. So I was thinking some sort of permanence, and I guess at the time, some sort of like, social connection, some sort of second family that you can choose, and something meaningful. And I saw these advertisements and trailers for ESO, which at the time was all these like massive cinematic battles in Cyrodiil. There was one, I don't know if I can find it, but there's a fight on the bridge. It's
yes.
Like 12 people were still going, oh my God, that looks so cool.
Yeah, and the Breton hero jumps across, throws everything. Right. Yeah,
and, I know. And Skyrim was, the Skyrim craze, and then, I think that attracted a lot of people, including myself. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna sign up for the beta or alpha, whatever. And I got into, I think, the second iteration of beta. I think it was 2013. And then after that, I've stuck around since launch.
Wow!
And I haven't taken a break.
What I've seen everything. That's super rare, because most people say they've taken a break at some point. Most of us being at launch. So the fact that you were there even through the majority of that is kind of unique.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough, man. I remember we didn't even have guild traders.
I do remember that. So what's more is just from like antiquated console side of things, we didn't have chat on consoles originally, which is completely ridiculous to think about. There was just straight up no way to communicate unless you used like the PlayStation or Xbox voice chat. You just couldn't talk in game. You couldn't type. You couldn't do anything. There was just no form of communication in game at launch.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it was not great.
Seems like something that would be in the game. Like, I don't know.
It does, yeah. You had to use the voice thing, which, I mean, if you just go into zone voice, how that would be. Just like through an Xbox or a PlayStation, it's just going to be a nightmare. So it's like you couldn't type. So for the majority of it, it was just like, okay, I'm just not going to talk to anybody who I don't know, and I'll just set up a private party. Because like, if I just walk into a zone, it's just music blaring, people screaming, hitting their kids, or doing whatever horrible thing they're doing in the background. It's like, dude, what is happening on the other end of this microphone? Like, I don't understand. And it's like, yeah, not being able to filter that out is insane. So it's like, that was, to be fair, maybe that was some of a turn off to me out the gate as well, when it was like, because now it's like people can type stuff or whatever, but that's a lot easier to ignore than something blaring in your ears the whole time.
Yeah.
So I guess based on that, though, that brings us to the idea of there's a bunch of tiers of players in this game, whether, people like to kind of focus on that or not, is kind of debatable. And there's the PvE side of things. And we've had several shows recently where I've had PvP talks left and right. But there's being new to the game, you learn the ropes. Pretty much everybody agrees. I actually think it might have been you, Nefas, that had the meme where it was like one thing everybody agrees on is don't start the game and immediately power level.
Don't grind.
Yeah, don't grind.
It's so simple.
It really is, because that'll burn you out. And I totally agree. And the amount of like content in ESO at this point, because we're going into year 8, I think. Yeah. This would be going into the 8th year. Holy shit!
Yeah. Raise a kid.
Yeah. That is a really long time at this point for a game. Like in most games, you get like they have the 10-year plan and stuff, and MMOs are a little different, obviously, but like 8 years worth of stuff being added to. If you're new to this game, even if you just, because I always say when people ask, oh, should I pick it up? If you like, I don't know, if you jump into the game and you buy the cheapest version you could possibly get, which is just the base game, and then like Morrowind and Imperial City are included, that is a lot of stuff to do, sans any of the expansions, DLCs, chapters, anything else. So like, there's just so much there, and that can, be enough for most people. But then you get the challenge stuff and you get the PvP aspect of it, which kind of brings you to your like end goal. What do you do to prove like if this is your thing to strive for, which is trials, vet hard mode trials. Before it was more PvP, now it's kind of not. It's there and it kind of just it exists for those who want it. But the dungeons and trials thing, I don't really have a lot of experience outside this game, but they seem like a pretty good challenge. I wish the tiered approach was a little better. I mean, some people want like a story mode, which is kind of just normal, in my opinion, because normal mode, you really, especially with companions, I mean, they'll stand in stupid plenty and die, but like, you can probably get through most of normal stuff. I guess maybe like if you really can't do like the Mavlorcage or something like that because you keep bumping into each other, that'll be a problem. But like for the most part, normal with some practice and some gearing you can probably get through if you just want to see it. It's the vet stuff and then the vet hard mode, and now they've been doing the independent vet hard modes where each one has its own banner that you can raise for a challenge. And that's kind of like where it separates into like the different tiers of how involved, how dedicated do you want to be with this. Do you like the way this game does that? Or do you think there's a better way to go about this? Or do you want something more out of this than what we kind of have, like with the sort of tiered system they've got?
I think it needs work personally. What do you think, Skinny? Yeah, I think it needs work. I mean, there's such a huge gap between normal and vet.
I agree with that. That's why I'm curious.
Even from vet to hard mode, it's like what's going on here?
Yeah.
Take vet Rock Grove compared to vet hard mode Rock Grove. And it's
right.
It's a different beast.
Different.
Very, very different. It's also like soft content makes soft players too, in some sense.
Yeah. And
that makes sense.
No, it does. And
I'm not trying to be Lee's really the topic.
No, I agree. Yeah.
But that's
if overlay content was harder, maybe that'll prepare people for some variant of veteran somehow.
Right. The steps that are there. This is something that I've kind of felt for a while. The steps that are there, they're not really. It's less of a step and more of a like you're jumping 3 steps at a time. And that's kind of the thing, because like the jumps and it back when I went from like, okay, I went through and beat everything on normal and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this like MMO thing and I'm getting less shit at everything. So like, okay, cool. Let's try the hard. Well, now I want to do everything on vet. And then I, got my teeth kicked in Mavlorcage and Halls of Fabrication and all this stuff originally. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is totally different. Like it's not even remotely close. And a lot of the times, like I felt like I didn't learn anything between the two of them. It was like starting all over again. But because it was something I wanted to work at, I eventually started to get better. And then I'm like clearing through that. And then it's like, okay. And we have this perpetual power creep, which I thought they were trying to prevent us from getting more powerful last time. Like I thought that was supposed to be some of the rework, and we seem to be hitting like completely off the rails now.
That didn't work.
It didn't.
That's a complicated one because
I think they like just nerfed a little CP or something, and they were like, this will rein in some of that power, but then everything else blew up.
Everything else exploded. Which a little while back when we got the CP adjustment. And everybody got that huge spike in durability. There was that thing where it's just like, oh man, we're like all the DPSs are like, dude, I'm just going to use parse food all the time. I have more health than I know what to do with. So like the damage at the moment is pretty high, which I'm not going to lie. I personally, it's fun for me. I don't even really play DPS, but I just love like watching like my prog team just do the most outrageous crap ever while I'm just like, cool, now I don't have to hold stuff in place very long because it's dead before I even knew what was going on. Like that's great for me. Makes me look like a good tank. But then, so like besides like the power creep, once I got into the hard mode stuff and the one that kind of like kicked off my like I finally found a trial guild that would give me a shot at stuff like I had been in different trial guilds and stuff like that, and they were all varying degrees of skill. But one of the things that I ended up running into was this weird situation, which happens to a lot of people in real life about this when it comes to jobs, where they want experience for you to be on the team, but I can't be on the team because I didn't have a team to get experience yet. So I couldn't prove that I knew how to do it. But at the same time, I can't do anything about that because you won't let me on the team because you said I don't have experience. So I'm like, and this all started, I was on teams, they couldn't complete it. Don't get me wrong. Like, and I say I was just as much a problem because I was new to it. But my journey was a year and a half ago now, where I was like, okay, I have one skin in the game I don't have. I want my purple skin. And I made a tank and I was on a team and we could sort of do +1, and the team got frustrated because we could never really progress past that, and it disbanded. So I got another team, and the roster changed itself 6 times while I was there, and it ended up falling apart because like it wouldn't happen. And one of the people who had been very experienced, super nice dude, for you, if you actually listen, Thug, I would use him as like a sounding board. I'm like, okay, here's my POV. What am I doing wrong? And he would tell me like, oh, stand here, do this. This is better. If you do this skill here, it'll help you out. So I improved while we, did what we did. And after a while, I ran out of teams that would give me a chance. And then it became, nope, nobody's, you're out of options. Anybody who can do this, well, you can't show a POV of you doing that. And I was like, well, yes, because I'm trying to earn the skin. So like, clearly I haven't done it. And they're like, oh, well, then, we want more experience. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I don't know how to get experience for a skin run if I can't get on a team that will let me get experience for a skin run. So I ended up in this weird loophole for a while where I just got frustrated. And eventually he came to the point where he's like, this is ridiculous that you don't have your skin. I'm just going to see if me and a couple buddies will like run with you. He's like, because I've seen your videos, you at least know what you're doing. Like, you're not a detriment. You're not a carry. Like, you can at least hold your own. Are you going to get a Griffin Heart? No, but he's like, you can clear it. And I was like, so I was allowed to go in, and it took us 4 tries, and we got purple skin. And I was like, a year and a half for a group to give me 4 shots at this stupid thing. Now, granted, that was a year and a half where I was on different teams and I got practice. Had I just joined them day one, I probably would have looked like a slob. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know it as much, but I had practice failing for so long. And because we were so efficient at it, that's when people were like, well, does anybody on this team like really have like Griffin Heart or anything? And there was one person I think that had it, and the rest were like, well, I mean, we did that pretty quick. Why don't we just give it a couple reps, see how it goes? And it took a month, and we got Griffin Heart. So it was like, I went from being unable to get a team to I finally got a shot and again had practiced at it. And I was like, there's that weird disconnect where it's like, I get you want, because I'm personally speaking, I would rather run with people that know what they're doing. But if I'm in like a progression group, I don't expect everyone to be running trifectas. I expect you to be progressing toward getting better. You guys you both actually have accomplished more than I have, because I know my next goal is Godslayer at some point, but I had to step down because of the holidays. But like, what has been your experience getting into this type of stuff? Is it similar? Is it just a different situation? Because you also main on PC where I'm on console. So it's a weird mentality where a lot of times it's not even, I don't think, meant to be elitist, but a lot of people also don't want to waste their time with people, because the problem is you get this disconnect. Some people want to just beat stuff. Some people want to work at beating stuff. And that's where you kind of get a disconnect. It's also a bit different when somebody wants to prog something and somebody's like, I just want a perfect run. It's like, well, okay, that's a little different. Like, you guys are in different mindsets, even though the goal is both beating this.
This is a very colossal subject.
Yeah, that's why.
Layers.
I know, that's why I brought you guys here.
Okay. So, where do I even start? I guess you asked about our experiences, right?
Sure.
Okay, so my experience might be a bit different because back then we didn't have what we have now. Even the add-ons really
Sure.
how far they've come. We didn't have guides. We didn't have, certain websites. We didn't have, a lot of things. So it was kind of left to us, like a lot of us, to figure it out. And it was pretty chaotic back then, to the point where only a few got to the end goal, and then the rest of us, we just had to kind of go through what you did, basically. And or you had to take the initiative to make your own team, and then go from there. That's my experience with it. But I've also seen your experience with other players, and it just comes down to I don't know how to describe this.
I know it's weird to like.
I think people have kind of lost the meaning of progression, or people are just afraid of failing. People are afraid of actual progressing. People don't want to invest teaching people. Maybe there's some other like various reasons. Maybe they taught a previous tank and that tank bailed out or something, and they don't want to go through that all over again. Or maybe they just, as you said, don't want to waste their time. And I don't know what wasting time means within the context of progression. But I think those kinds of players tend to be soft. I keep saying soft, but that's what it is. They're just afraid of failing, and they're just afraid of progression. And it's kind of weird because it's kind of stupid. It pisses me off actually, because those players get to a certain point where they're looking for tanks or healers, experienced tanks or healers. But then there's only like 2 or 5 competent or experienced tanks or players at that level that can tank or heal. And then they look around and go, oh, well, how come there's no tanks? How come there's no healers? And I'm just like, well, because you never gave anyone a chance.
Yes.
So you shot yourself in the foot at the end. So if you're going to complain about that, you shouldn't complain about that if you're not willing to teach people. That's really it. I don't know. It's just really weird. And I think part of that kind of goes back to power creep. I think power creep has spoiled people. Like, I've seen groups where if you're not doing pad 5 hard mode Rakat burn, well, that's a bad group. I'm like thinking to myself, bad group.
Yeah.
Best players back then were doing lunar phase, hard mode clear. And I'm just thinking, I don't know. I think it's a combination of people being spoiled, people being afraid. And honestly, I don't know. It's just weird. There's a lot more layers I can talk about, but I don't know.
Sure. And well, the other thing, just like to quickly to your point, like the lunar phase thing was really funny, just that you mentioned that, because back with VMAL, one of the things that I find so funny is that people need to learn lunar phase by slow rolling lunar phase now to like get their Dramothra Destroyer, because nobody knows what the hell lunar phase is. And it's like pretty neat, but like nobody sees it. Because again, a lot of groups I've been on them where generally people will give you shit if you're not by pad 5. You're like, oh, it's probably not even worth it. We better just wipe. And it's just like, we have plenty more pads. Like we still got half the whole lunar circle to go here. Like, I think we're good.
To go back to the point of taking the time with people, one thing I've noticed is even if people aren't there, like 95% of people, if they want to get there, like I've seen them get there. Like if they do have the chance and they do work at it, it's like just because they're maybe on a different level than you are at the moment, like they're not like a worse player necessarily. Maybe they just have less experience. Maybe they've spent less time in the game. Like people have to get a chance to get the reps in and get the practice and get to that point, and but like I said, some people aren't patient and they don't want to wait for somebody. Like they don't want to wipe for 4 weeks in a row as like somebody is learning how to get to where they need to get to. I've had a pretty easy experience overall with raiding and getting into all that. The main raid team I initially joined, I'm still with from like 5 years or 4 years ago, I guess 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. So we've kind of progressed through everything together. And of course, we've had people come and go from the group, but we still have several of our original people.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
So I never had to like go through those struggles of finding a group that was willing to take me on, because I was just always in that group already with those guys and girls. So yeah, I think I got a little lucky with that. We originally split off from, we were in a social guild, and that guild wanted to start doing some harder content, but they didn't want to have any kind of like requirements for doing the harder content. They were just kind of like, just bring whatever and be at whatever level you want, and we're just not going to really monitor anything. It's gonna be a free for all. And so we were kind of like, okay. And so we gave it a shot for a little bit, and it just clearly wasn't working. There was people in there that, we weren't getting anywhere, and no one would step up, and like none of the leaders would step up and like make anything change to get better with it. So we kind of split off and formed our guild out of that, because we were like, well, we want to keep pushing this stuff, and we don't want to be, we don't want to be assholes to people, but we also want to hold people accountable for what they're doing.
Right.
And so that just kept growing. So I honestly think I kind of lucked into my whole raiding experience in ESO, and it's been pretty smooth ever since then.
Well, that's kind of interesting, just because of, again, the requirements people want for stuff, especially like, prog teams or, runs and stuff like that. And it's like, 95K VOD proof, or if, just whatever on PC, you can show your logs and stuff like that. And it's like, if you're in like a VMall proc, you don't need 95K DPS. Like, you just don't. Like, I'm not even a great DPS, and I can DPS through there, and I do not, one, I was not carried, and two, I have no, like, that's just, when people were clearing VMall back in the day, it was like, what, I think it even was mentioned in chat, like 30K was like, you were like bleeding edge, like melting through that, and it's like,
YOLO was doing 25K.
Yeah.
Back then, YOLO was there, and then I remember Outcasts popping up on YouTube because people were like, "Oh my god, how did you hit 30K on Magplar?" They got pissed off because it's like, okay,
exactly.
I remember that video.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, that's now. Does it make it easier if you have that type of thing? Absolutely. And like, to your point of being like afraid to fail in a lot of situations, people don't. Now, if you just keep repeating the same mistake over and over again and you refuse to change anything, and if somebody makes a suggestion, because another thing is, which I personally never have a problem with, if someone sees me do something wrong and has a suggestion, like, oh, try this. Okay, that's totally fine. If that works better with the comp, like, because that's another thing. A lot of people are like, oh, well, at least back when it dropped and everybody's like, necromancers only, pretty much. That's back when Colossus was completely off the rails. And everybody's like, no, only necromancers. It's like,
that's terrible.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, like, you don't need a team of all necromancers, like, to do this. This is not required. Like, that's fine if that's what people are playing. But like, the fact that it's just like, no, absolutely not. For the longest time, Mage DKs, so like, yeah, you can be the buff DK because you have no value to anyone otherwise. It's like, oh, cool. It seems a little ridiculous, but all right. But when you have these requirements, you also, I notice, find, at least in my personal experience, a lot of times people parrot what they hear from content creators.
Oh God.
Rather than understand why they are doing what they're doing. Because I've also, like, and it was recently a thing, and again, I don't personally care about criticism, but I'm also not trying to convince anybody that I'm the greatest player. So if somebody's like, you're shit, I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. I still beat the thing I just beat. So I don't care if you did it 0.4 seconds faster than me. I whatever, as long as I got it done, I'm fine. Like, and again, to this situation, it wasn't them specifically being a dick or anything like that. But there was a discussion in one of my Discords where there was a discussion about what people use for their dungeons and stuff like that. And somebody was like asking about Saxiel. And they were like, oh, just don't even, unless you're in Trials, or unless you're a Necromancer, so you're using Colossus, don't use Saxiel in 4-person content. It's worthless. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I go quite that extreme. I was like, that seems like a, and they were like, no, it's just like not a good set for 4-player content, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, I personally am like actually a big fan of it. And they're like, yeah, but try doing harder stuff in it. I was like, okay, here's my True Genius prog and that we cleared, and here's 2 Dreadeds back to back. And he's like, well, I mean, I guess you can make it work. I was like, you just said it was worthless. Like, you literally just said it was worthless. It's like, it's not worthless. Like, when we're trying to do a trifecta, we don't want to die. I have plenty of DPS. I've run with them plenty. Our healer is on point. So I would rather do a barrier rotation, because the odds of one of us dying during that, while they just go full bore DPS, okay, that's our strategy when we do stuff. So it worked for us. Is it the only way to do something? No, absolutely not. But like, just to immediately assume, no, that just can't work. It's like, well, there's a lot of ways to do stuff in this game, which is one of its strengths, but something outside of being like guide builders, kind of like you both, I don't feel like a lot of people see that, where there's like, I actually, one of the things that I liked that you had said from Loctavian's podcast, Nefas, was that when you're doing score pushing, a lot of times you're just trying literally anything you can think of to find that one weird thing that maybe it works. If you just repeat what somebody's guide says and you don't even understand like why you have that in that slot, it's just like, oh, this is just what you do. And it's like, well, maybe it's because if you have a group with this and you're doing this, okay, that keeps, brittle up or whatever the case. And it's like, whatever the reason that comp works for that team, as long as you get your buffs and debuffs and stuff like that, if it works for you, there's other options to do stuff, and so many people don't seem to have the ability to actually like understand why they're doing their builds, and I feel like that's kind of like a part of a weird disconnect that we have with this game.
Yeah. I think a large part of it is people don't want to critically think.
Critically thinking was the exact words in my head.
I saw something in your eyes. I'm like, this guy's gonna say it too. Yeah. People just don't want to critically think.
Yeah.
And there's also, and that's why, I say at the beginning of a lot of my videos, hey, just because, I'm showing you guys this doesn't mean, I'm telling you to do this. And I think Skinny even puts in his videos, hey guys, there's a lot of combination, and we still get ragged on, by the way, because you're telling these guys what to do.
Absolutely.
And it's like, what? Come on, man.
Yeah, that's the thing, which I do find funny, because again, as somebody who kind of just does literally everything I can do in this game, from fishing and crafting to as many hard content things as possible to PvP, it's weird because from whatever side of the fence you're on, the other side somehow thinks you're doing it wrong a lot of times. Where it's like, I just want to do the story. Okay, that's totally cool. Pugging a dungeon to get the story out of the dungeon is the worst way you could possibly experience that story. Like, literally the worst. But if
so
people...
many base takes. No, sorry, go on.
Yeah, but it's like... But if... When I have 15 minutes to get my daily, and that's like really all the time I have, I don't want to ruin the experience for anybody, but like, dude, I just want my transmute crystals. I want to peace out. Like, I don't want to sit here for 40 minutes but I guess if it's this weird thing where it's like, I've actually, sometimes I've dropped from group, other times I'm like, can you maybe listen to it along the way? I'm not gonna, like, I don't want to, again, if it's somebody's first time doing it, I don't really want to ruin that experience, but like, I've always said, please don't, if you give a shit about the stories, don't pug the dungeon the first time, like, because you don't know who you're going to be grouped with. Everybody has different reasons for doing it, and when you're trying to do a dungeon finder, which for anybody who doesn't know, that's what we're referring to with pugs. It's like pickup group. It's just a slap together matchmaking thing to get the thing done, and you never know who you're going to deal with in that. So it's like, not everybody's going to want to wait around, but at the same time, it's such a weird situation to be in because everybody could have a different reason for running that thing.
I think for that case, people are entitled. For sure, because I don't know if you remember Gilliam tweeting about fake tanking and his opinion on looking for a group. People ragged on him, man.
Well, that's actually.
I was like, bro, this is a base take. You should never expect anything from strangers. Never.
Well,
never.
And to that point, like, because that I know was a hot button topic for like straight up 2 weeks of just everybody was on both sides of defending fake tanking. And the thing is, like, which I actually encountered a couple times on PC, not on console, at least that I'm aware of. I mean, I had a couple situations on console where, again, the person who queued as a tank was clearly not a tank. And I ended up, I was just like on a heal DPS, just like hybrid thing, just to blow through for some extra transmute crystals because I've been building a bunch of different things. And I actually was just like, it was like normal dread cell or something like that. And I quickly realized that literally nobody in the group had a taunt. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, it's normal. So I ended up putting Inner Rage on my healer and just dodge rolling around a whole bunch just so we could literally kill the things because it was just like blasting everybody. And I'm like, and then at the end of it, they're like, oh, sorry, I didn't have a taunt slot. And I was like, yeah, that wasn't lost on me. Thanks. I got it. Like I pieced that together when you died like immediately into every fight. That was super annoying. If you're not used to a dungeon enough that you can do that, that sucks because then you don't get to clear it either or whatever. But on the flip side of that, and which I ran into on PC, somebody like, and I refused to accept the thing. The person had a sword and shield on. They were low CP. They were like 12 or something like that. They were getting busted up, but they were trying to tank, and everybody called them a fake tank and tried to vote to kick them. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, they're an actual tank. They're new, dude. Like, what are you doing? I was like, and I just kept declining the vote. And obviously I didn't vote for themselves. So it kept failing. And they started giving, like, they were getting annoyed at me because I wasn't, they were like, this is just dead weight. I was like, they don't know what they're doing. It is not that they're not doing it. They don't know how yet. Like, so that was another weird situation because it was like, that's people assuming that it was a fake tank in that situation. And I was like, they're clearly a tank. Like, they have 40k hit points. They have a sword and shield on. The dude's puncturing everything way too many times, but he's still doing it. Like, it's fine. Like, he's new.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let me know what y'all think about this.
Yeah.
I have very, very low expectations for pugs.
Yes,
but
as well, I think
do
you
have
should.
The expectation. But if someone accuses a tank, I would hope they have a taunt. Someone accuses a healer, at least one heal. Like if you have one heal on your bar, that's enough. But
Breath of Life, you're good.
You are queuing for those roles. Just like it would be like a damage dealer queuing with no damage dealing abilities.
I've been I was in actually one where somebody I was in one where actually I was on my tank and one of the DPSs was actually a tank and they queued as a DPS and I'm like, what is happening? It was like, you chose the longest queue possible just to do this. What are you doing? So I mean, I just changed what I was doing. I was like, well, it's fine, you can tank, I guess. I'll just DPS. But I was very confused.
Just I don't care what kind of build you have. I don't care if you're actually a DPS that has a taunt slotted. Like,
sure.
None of that matters. But what annoys me is when I end up having to hold aggro on a boss because someone else is being lazy and doesn't want to do their role that they queued for. Then I'm like, well, we can get through it still. It's whatever. But like, it's just kind of, to me, it feels disrespectful to your teammates that you're just like, this one little thing that would take me 3 seconds to slot a a little ability on my bar, and you can get more DPS from slotting inner beast anyways. Like, why not just do that if you're going to queue as a tank? I don't. It's so easy, but I don't know. That's the one requirement. That's it. Just a lot of time. Everything else, do whatever you want in your build. I really don't care. Like, just hold aggro. Like, I don't know. What do you?
I can see where you're coming from.
You agree? Disagree?
Well, I can see where you're coming from. I agree to an extent with it, but I don't think there should be any roles in normals.
Right, and that's why
I don't think there should be tank, healer, DPS. I think there should just be Q.
just normal.
I don't know, because when you have these roles and then people start creating their own expectations or standards for these roles, that's when you start. I hate to call it slippery slope, but it's kind of a slippery slope to where like you're starting to actually, I don't know, restrict people to specific things. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring this up specifically.
ESO is such a open thing. I don't know how to describe it. That's what Gilliam touched on too, and I agree with it personally.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I do find fascinating, because again, I if I'm in a normal, I just expect it to end as fast as possible. Like, I'm not doing it for anything deep. I'm doing it for my transmute crystals. I don't even care about the experience at this point. Like, that's long been irrelevant, even with the new CP system. So it's like, it's fine. I don't care. The only time I do normals is like, okay, I need to get like transmute crystals, and that's basically the easiest way to do so. So I don't personally care, but I've also, run these things 1,000 times. So it also, whatever. So I generally kind of, in practice, agree with you, Nefas, where I'm like, whatever, do whatever. I wish people would kind of give me a heads up sometimes if I'm in, like, on my healer. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm also a tank, I guess, I suppose, or whatever. Which, in a normal, if you know what you're doing, you'll be fine. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you know what you're doing. If you're new to it and you're going to get surprised, well, okay, that's going to be an unpleasant experience. So I can see from kind of Skinny's perspective, like, if you're not super experienced with something, even if it is on normal, you going in not expecting to be soaking, heavy attacks from the boss or whatever, that's going to be a pretty unpleasant experience for you. But then on the flip side of that, kind of like what I had mentioned earlier, if you're not just acing your role, people also will then just be like, oh, you're bad at this, or you're not doing what you're supposed to. And it's like, okay, well, that might not be the case, because again, patience is kind of like a weird thing that's somehow becoming like a main topic we have going, where it's like, you gotta have a little patience with other players, because much as you don't know like what you're getting with a pug, a lot of times like you don't know how much experience somebody has. Like, if it's the first time they see something, they're not going to know all the fucking mechanics in one shot. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, and that can get weird. Most of the times in normal, at least from my perspective, you can probably fudge your way through it if you have any type of like solidified build, like you're using sets. I've met people who didn't really, sets were really a thing because they come from the single player games and they don't have sets. Sets aren't a thing. Like, if you come from Skyrim, you have pieces. Mm-hmm. So like, well, I don't know what, like, a 5-piece set is not really a thing in that game. So like, they might just have jumbled whatever, and they're getting smoked because they get no bonuses and stuff like that. So it's this weird thing where it's like, you kind of need to expect some degree of competence, but at the same time, how much can you do that without then giving kind of like this weird situation where people might be getting blamed just for not being good at something? So it's like,
I think it goes back to expectations.
Yeah.
If you have no expectations, there's no disappointment or anger.
Well, to me, the expectation comes because Zoss put the different roles to queue there. Like, the roles are there.
I guess.
To queue. Like, so, and you pick a role. So if you pick tank, and you don't want to tank, that's what. Like, why did you pick it?
Okay, but like, what's the worst that's going to happen in the normal? You die. Okay.
It's true. I mean,
what? I don't understand when people get angry when they die in the game.
Well, that's okay. That's
whether there's PvP or PvE.
All right, that's actually.
Let's go.
That is a totally different topic altogether. That I
think it's a
people
topic.
are way too worried about not succeeding at what they did the first time, like dying, whatever. The big thing, which, and it's funny because I, to a lesser extent, because I don't really do, like, this is my form of, like, content creation, whatever you want. A lot of times when, I don't like streaming my progs because normally I don't give a shit what you're backseating me on, that's fine. But when I'm not proficient at something yet, like, and I'm trying to be, I can't multitask well enough to have somebody backseating me and, like, me focus on what I'm doing. So I'm like, I can't do this. This is too many things at once. You're overloading my brain. Like, I can't do it. So, like, I just don't. But, like, if I upload, I mean, I started doing my YouTube thing now, or whatever. But, like, prior to, the only reason I uploaded my VODs was to prove I could do them to people on console so that they would be like, okay, cool, he can do this. Here's proof. Okay, let him on the team. Like, whatever. And then it was just some people asked what I was doing because, I'll talk about it on this show and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I have no commentary. Here's just us, like, doing the thing. And people were like, oh, what sets are you using? I'm like, yeah, I'm not a teacher. Like, I'm not good at teaching. Like, this is not my thing. This is just literally what I'm doing. Like, there are way better people at knowing how to explain what they're doing. I just have learned what I'm doing. So, like, that's all I can really show. But the thing is, I post the video of us doing the thing. I didn't show you the 45 times we failed the fucking dungeon, especially on stupid shit, because a lot of times it's just dumb stuff that I do. Like, the amount of times that I joked, like, when I just got, like, my Immortal Redeemer a little while ago on my off tank, I went in there and I was like, dude, I even told the raid leads, I was like, yo, if you need to replace me, this is fucking embarrassing from my perspective. I haven't run this place in so long and I suck. And you expect us to, like, perfect. And it's why, shout out to the Empty Soul Gems. My like, they were just like, don't worry about it. They're like, we'll figure it out. If it stresses you out and you want to bail at some point, you let us know. But they were like, you learn quick enough. Here's a video of one of the other tanks knowing how to do it. They were like, you and the other tank. They were like, you're basically two of the most important roles in here. And both of you have, like, 3 clears of +2. Like, we're not expecting you to be savants here. Like, you've got to get some reps, and that's how you'll get it. And it took a couple weeks of us face planting the dumb shit, and I'm not standing on the right place, so I'm soaking all this electricity, and I don't realize, and people made suggestions. And it took us about 5 weeks, I think. And we got our IR. And they were like, yeah, there you go. See, I told you get the hang of it. I cannot imagine many groups being like, oh man, this dude's like dying of lightning. This guy's out of position. Like, he has no idea what he's doing. He missed his bash here. Like, all these things. I had one, which, again, it looks like I'm a savant to an extent in the video, but it's like, dude, there were 100 failures before the one video of me doing the actual thing where nobody died. There was one where I was the fucking only death. We had 35-36, and I got all of the mechanics at the same time. You know how sometimes ohms... I don't know if this is a PC thing. Does ohms ever redirect even if the main tank has taunt and it will face the entrance doorway? And
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it did that. The main tank was aware, and he was like, yo, heads up for the main door. And I'm like, oh, shit. Right as I needed to get the bash. So I'm like, okay, I got bash. I bash. I'm prepped for the steam thing. Felms jumps on me. So I've got the fucking pool on me. I'm like, God damn it. So I start trying to go to the side. As steam hits me, and he does the poison cone, which he chose me at the exact same time, too. And I'm like, the fuck? And I just got obliterated. I had no chance in hell. I died immediately. We recovered. We beat it, and it was 35-36. I was like, cool. That's what I need in my life right now, is to be the one person who needed to die in that. And then, like, it was like a session or two later, we got it. But it was just, like, one of those things where it's like, everybody in that group, okay, yeah, that sucks, because we basically had it right there had that not gone that way. But people in that group just are patient with each other, and it made the experience like, okay, well, because I even asked, I was like, what would anybody do in this situation? And a couple people were like, you die. And I was like, cool, I did that. So I got that part on lockdown. And a couple others were like, maybe if you had tried dodge rolling into Lotus, the cone would have snapped around and not killed anybody else, but it would have stuck to you. They were like, but I don't know if it would have tagged somebody on the way through if you rolled through him. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But expecting that type of patience from people and not getting so frustrated, it's just like, okay, this guy sucks, just move on. That seems to be one of the things that, in my experience recently, kind of separates people that I would consider quote-unquote endgame or elite from people who aren't there yet and are super impatient. And it's because I don't know a lot of super impatient people that get a lot of this stuff done, it seems like. At least recently. It seems like the people who are trying to get there tend to sometimes be the least patient of everybody. And it's the people that can actually get this stuff done have learned how to be like, well, yeah, no, but we're trying to actually understand and do it. That's why we did it.
I mean, I know I've thrown runs, it's because of me. We didn't get the deathless run. And honestly, it's been really nice to, like, I'm the one that's most upset with me. And
that's always, I'm always.
Everyone else is like, it's fine. It's all good. Brush it off. Like, we'll get it next time. And I'm the one like, oh, God.
Yeah, I'm so mad.
I'm so bad. Yeah. But it's nice to have, to not have teammates that make you feel like crap when you do stuff like that. And, then someone else does it. And, you kind of all share in this thing together and just treat each other with respect.
So, another question. I know you do to an extent, Nefas. Do you play PvP in any aspect, Skinny, or are you just PvE?
I actually, so I was saying, me and my buddy came to the game right before one Tamriel.
Yeah.
So when we got into it, after we kind of got characters leveled and everything, that was our main thing. So
okay.
After we started going down Cyrodiil, and then Morrowind came out and BGs came out, and we were like, this is so fun. We were in BGs like hours every day. Like, he was like, this guy, he was in them more than I was, actually, but he would be like top of the leaderboards just because he sat in them all day, and it was all based on like how many times you queued up.
Oh yeah, it's totally cumulative points. I got to third once, and I was like, dude, I am still bad. Why am I so highly ranked?
But that was my main thing for a while, actually, before I really started doing trials and stuff. I was kind of scared of trials. I don't know why. It seemed daunting at first, even though like once I got in, started doing them, I was like, oh, this is not so bad. This is kind of fun, actually. But yeah, PvP was my first thing. And even since then, like up until about a year and a half ago, I still, not like as my main focus, but I still semi-regularly went out to Cyrodiil and did BGs and stuff. And then I guess about a year and a half ago, it started tapering off. And now I rarely PvP anymore now. It's just, I got so, I know everyone harps on it, but I just got so tired of going to Cyrodiil and like having a bad time because of performance. It just, 1 out of 5 times I'd get good performance out there, and I didn't want to roll that dice anymore. Just, I was done with it. So I'll go out for events and stuff, like the Mid-Year Mayhem.
Sure.
But and I'd love if they actually do make some changes and people are like, hey, it's running great out there. I would love to get back out there and experience that again. But yeah, it got to a point where I just
wasn't worth the effort. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a pretty common sentiment now. And I mean, it's funny, like, it's definitely not what it used to be, even on console side of things. The only one that I still, like, I don't know, I assume people just assume that I'm completely whacked out of my mind, but Cyrodiil I actually have very minimal issues with, which I know is pretty unheard of. But I also say that it's not that just PvP works for me and I'm like, oh, people are making it up. For some reason, Battlegrounds run like garbage for me. Like constant
Really?
lag. I DC constantly. I can be in Cyrodiil for 5 hours. I play 5 BGs. I'll get DC'd from 2 of them. And one of them, I'm stuck in my spawn gate and I literally can't get through the wall or something. I'm like, how is it that this is the experience everybody uses to like combat how poor the performance is? And that's the one that I'm like, dude, I can't play BGs. Like, I'm also bad at BGs, but I'm like, dude, they'd be kind of fun if I could like do them. And it's just like, for whatever reason, I don't get it. My experience in BGs is a nightmare. And usually that's people's escape because way smaller arena, way fewer people. Like, I don't understand from I mean, I'm not a programmer. I literally don't understand how my BGs can be that bad if my Cyrodiil is that good. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, but it's just, yeah. But no, and I think it's pretty, universal amongst people who play PvP, I should say, because a lot of people don't want anything to do with PvP, period, which is fine. Like, whatever. The background of Elder Scrolls is not multiplayer, like, at all. So competitive PvP is really weird. I actually think, other than ESO, Battlespire is the only one with competitive PvP, and I can count the amount of people who play Battlespire on one hand, probably. So,
Not me.
yeah, it wasn't a great experience. Don't recommend it. But so my question with it is, we've got dungeons and like arenas as like a form of endgame PvP. Do you think there's any reason that ZOS should try to have some type of end game thing? And I mean, I guess the question is sort of like, do we think ZOS will do much with PvP, period? But like, because it has not been for quite a while. But do you think there's actually like any benefit or incentive that they should try to kickstart something and have that as like an alternative form of endgame for people? Something to work for, other than just the PvE aspect. Do you think that would like be like, would there be benefit there to be had other than just like the fact that a small portion of people want it? Do you think that could like do something for the game again? Because originally, although people liked PvP, it was never the draw that PvE was. So like, is it worth the resources to dump back into that, I guess?
I disagree.
Yeah.
That statement.
Okay.
I kind of do as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think PvP up until 2.5 years ago or so, or even a little bit more than that,
Sure.
was the main draw in ESO as the end game. If you look at the Twitch directory, the most popular streamers were PvPers.
Okay.
Now, of course, it's raiders or housing streamers or whatever, right? The demographics have certainly changed, I think, due to various factors, including performance issues, but also the fact that PvP hasn't received much since 2017.
Yeah, it's been Volendrung essentially was still like the last thing, and those outposts that they put that didn't really do anything on the map.
But all the talk of PvP somehow being improved or being added to, and there's a bunch of really cool ideas that you and I can come up with or have come up with, whether it's in regards to changing the Battlegrounds modes or maybe focusing on something else besides Cyrodiil, maybe adding a basic reward structure to PvP or incentive to actually win BGs and blah 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 blah. We can talk about it all day, but I think at the end of the day, it's like on the precipice. I think where if they don't do anything this year, I think it's over.
So it's almost too late.
Like I think so. If they don't do anything with it, it's just kind of going to stagnate further or just decline further. Because what happened with PvPers, a lot of PvPers, they went to New World. I don't know if you... yeah, they went to New World.
I know a lot of people who went to New World.
Right. For the PvP, right. A lot of ESOPers in New World. Because they won PvP.
Yep.
Obviously, that kind of didn't, pan out for a lot of them. But what happened, interestingly, was that not a lot of them came back. They went to other games, like FPS games.
Yep.
I mean, so community-wise, especially community-wise, no one gives a shit anymore. A lot of the PvPers that still are there, or near ones, they don't give a shit how they act or whatever. There's no community. There's no semblance of community.
Yeah, sure.
So that doesn't encourage anyone to get into it. And content-wise, there's nothing for them. So they just, it's just a miserable state. And they said they're not going to do anything to PvP except performance fix. And that's been promised since a billion years. So I don't know what's going to happen.
This is a long-standing issue.
Yeah. I think either the best course is do something with it or just forget about it completely. As much as that pains me, because Skinny was talking about how he got into PvP first. I also got into PvP first.
Mm-hmm.
PvE was like nothing, like not even a thought in my head. But it just, I don't know. I don't PvP anymore because of that. It just makes me sad because it's either too laggy or too dead.
Yeah,
it's really it.
So do y'all think if even with no new content, if Cyrodiil just worked, like a lot of these people would still be there? Like
yes and no. Short term,
you do need new content.
Yeah, that's been my long-standing question. Like, because again, I love Zero. Like the reason I always say my favorite event is always Mid-Year Mayhem or whatever they changed the name to, White Strakes Mayhem whenever they have it, because we're getting a different one next instead of that, even though that would be next on the block normally. But I love that event just because people are like, oh, rewards, and they all jam into that place. So I'm like, this is great, because now it reminds me of back in like 2016 and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, this is chaos. This is absolute chaos. People blowing up the siege equipment everywhere. Everybody's 20 of 20 on everything all the time. Like, the place is a mess. And like, I love that chaos. Like, I thought that was super, super fun. So that event always reminds me, I think, of how much fun I used to have in Cyrodiil. So like, it's the closest that it still gets. I mean, in Greyhost, it's usually pop locked or whatever, but a lot of people are shifting around PV door as opposed to actually like fighting each other. They're like in a circular motion, just like grabbing different positions so they get maximum AP, which I guess when that's your sole goal is to just get points and then get out, that's fine. Right. I mean, that's more efficient than actually fighting people, or boosting, which when Red Diamond Courier was on the show that we discussed, the last Mid-Year Mayhem was probably my least favorite one, because people were much more concerned about how they could boost as opposed to actually do anything. So they would go to the newly opened servers, which used to just be like smaller campaigns. It was easier to get Emperor if you wanted a 7-day campaign, because you didn't have people who were sharing an account for like 4 days playing nonstop type of thing. So it was a little more feasible, or people who were just super, super dedicated and just were like, oh man, these guys are machines type of thing, and have been playing all month. You have a 7-day campaign, it's a lot easier to work with. But without alliance locking, people would just flip the map in one direction with a bunch of people and then switch to the other team and then flip the map back in another direction and then flip the map in another direction, and they would just rinse and repeat until they had like 45 million AP. And it's like, oh, I just got my first star and I started like 2 weeks ago. And I'm just like, okay, this isn't anybody fighting anybody. This is people just like finding stupid ways to boost and make this experience as unenjoyable as humanly possible for everybody out here. So like, I that makes me concerned, I guess, personally. Just like, it's been such a long time that any place outside of the main Greyhost server I've found any type of PvP that actually seems to happen, that it's like, to your point, it's like, did most of the like PvPers just leave, and now we have like just people creatively trying to boost everything, and that's about all you've got left?
Yeah, they did. They left.
Yeah,
they're not playing anymore. Most of them are not even playing anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, you saw that trolling, right?
Yeah,
on the on the stream before we were here.
Yeah, that's correct.
I was a PvPer.
Oh, absolutely. I recognize that name from somebody who's been a.
But I wasn't in Cyrodiil.
Yes. Yep.
It's come to the point where there's like nothing to do in PvP.
Yes.
All you do is, you know what I mean? Like, you have nothing to do. Yeah. And I don't blame them. Right. I understand them.
Right.
They're like, whatever, go ahead. But the game itself does not motivate or incentivize fighting each other. I mean, we can see this case not just in Cyrodiil with AP, also Battlegrounds modes. I mean, it's part of why, when with certain specific modes like Chaos Ball and whatever, it encourages you to not fight or to maybe like run.
Yes.
And also that also in part incentivizes people to do deathmatch only when
Sure.
it is not a deathmatch. Like what do you win?
Sure.
You know, what do you win? So yeah, just kill whatever. Just have fun.
Yeah, and
that's why it evolves into it.
Right, and that's one of the things that as somebody, like I said, I like to, hunt achievements, stuff like that, and I also main a tank. I am useless in Battlegrounds for the most part because I will play a DPS and do something, or I will play a tank and no one gives a shit because they're either going to be like, I'm not wasting my time with this because I could be killing somebody else faster. You with the new queue system, which I did hear is somewhat botched. I mean, we were talking about this a couple episodes ago on the system where basically nobody ever gets anything except team deathmatch now, even though that you can queue for game modes or team deathmatch, but because it's lumping like the game modes like Chaos Ball, Capture the Flag, whatever, are in the same pool. Like there's a chance you could get team deathmatch. The odds that out of 12 people queuing, one of them won't be just team deathmatch, and they're going for the quickest queue time because the queue times are notoriously bad. If you queue just team deathmatch, that's the only mode you can get. If you queue objectives, you can get literally anything. So you would need to get 12 people to all queue at the same time to want objectives only and not have one of them be a team deathmatch for you to ever pull an objective. And that's why nobody's ever seeing objectives. Like it's basically non-existent. You just get team deathmatch, even though it's supposedly back in.
Yeah. People don't understand it's not a bug. People keep saying it's a bug. It's not a bug.
Yeah, I know. And that's why. And I forget what the number was, but actually Dogged from the Red Diamond actually did the math on the percentage chance you would get a like objective mode of a specific type you're wanting. He was like, yeah, I want to play Capture the Relic. And it was like, I think it was like 1/3 of 1% chance based on the like odds that the 12 people are there. You have this many game modes and you all queued at the same time and you got that game mode. He was like, it is literally almost impossible for you to actually get that mode. It's like, it's not going to happen. You're never going to do it. It's just blind luck unless you just play hundreds and hundreds of Battlegrounds. And I'm like, that is so frustrating because I always prefer those modes because it gives me a little something to do. But if I play Battlegrounds, I have to play a DPS. There's no point because I can't distract people well enough to matter if it's team deathmatch, and I can't fucking kill anybody if I'm a tank team deathmatch. So like, I have no role outside being somebody who can kill somebody, or theoretically even a healer could be more useful because you could pocket heal your DPSs to keep them up. I can't puncture the other team and actually have them follow me around. They don't give a shit. Like, it's not going to do anything. So like, fundamentally that whole mode is, I hope you like team deathmatch still, is pretty much what it is.
I think they just need to get to the core of what's good. And I think that's the combat. Like I've never seen people leave. Well, I've seen early game ESO people leave because they didn't like the combat, but I don't really see late game ESO people leave, especially PvP, saying like, yeah, it's because the combat wasn't fun. It's not good combat. It's no lack of content or performance, so they have the good combat in place. It's fun. It like when you really start to understand what's happening with the combat, especially in PvP, it is fun. It's a lot of fun. And that's what I think was the big draw for so many people. But, you can only do it the same thing so many times. And then it's just like, all right, well, why am I still doing this?
Right. And to that point, I mean, like, we're absolutely not going to get into like Crown Store crap because whatever. But like,
why not? What's going on? What?
God damn it!
What?
So we're not going to get into that. But like, there's
what are we getting into?
So the amount of things you can earn in game.
Like, oh yeah, okay. Let's talk about that.
So that's why we're not going to get into the fact that you can buy a billion things, but what you can earn, because again, end game is got aspects of like, okay, people like to show off when you do a cool accomplishment. unless you show what your journal is to somebody else, nobody knows how many achievement points you have. Like, nobody's gonna fucking see that ever. And most people also don't care. Which is totally fine. I care, but I care about mine. I also don't care as much about somebody else's. It's like, yeah, okay, you're awesome, great. It's like, I just want to know how many I have. Like, that's my big thing. But like, that's fun for me, and everybody gets their rocks off in a different way. That's mine. I love that shit. It's super, super fun for me to collect that junk. But like a lot of people, it's cosmetics. It's something that you don't get that much in this game. Mounts. It's the incentives you get for doing the hardest content or the challenges. Like, housing added some stuff. Like, it added actually probably more than anything else had, as like, you know, you go to the achievement vendors, you can buy stuff for doing stuff. You get Emperor, you get your Throne of Cyrodiil for your house, stuff like that. But it's like, you know, titles, mounts, titles specifically, like skins and stuff like that. A degree is cumulatively collecting stuff. You better just like the next thing more than the previous, because there's no way to use like you can only use one title at a time. So like, how much incentive is there to do titles anymore for so many people?
There's that add-on
called Title Flex. You can have 10 titles right there.
Oh dear Lord.
No, I get what you're saying though.
I should have known there was an add-on for that. I always say there's got to be an add-on for it. Okay, so that aside, PvP specifically, you don't earn really much of anything from there. They put in that, what is it, the Timber Crow thing? Everybody likes it because you look like
a slut.
Yeah, I was gonna say pretty much. That's why everybody liked Fanglayer chests back in the day. It's like, I want Fanglayer chest or Zen chest.
Got that new cosmetic. What was it? The trebuchet emote?
Oh,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I forgot about that thing.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I'd be if you were that. I don't know, like, ironically, it's not even like a PvP achievement. It's like a siege achievement.
It's a literal siege achievement. Break walls. It's a PV door achievement. It's pretty funny. I actually forgot about that thing. So there's not much you can do there. There's the skin thing, which I guess, here's a question, because I'm not a super big cosmetics person, so I'm always like, look, I have like zero opinion on this shit. So I always try to like get, okay, the skins recently, the crown version, I guess we're going to talk a little bit about the crown. So
yeah. Oh shit, skis. Oh shit, I'm gonna let Skinny take over.
The crown version
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
The crown version is like the same thing, except sometimes like a little better looking,
a little flashier. Yeah,
but like the one that really threw me for a loop was I don't like either of them, but the sea giant skin from Kind Zagus, and they had the sea giant skin, and I'm like, okay, whatever, you look like. And then the one from the crown square was like darker, and it had the symbols around it, like the like engravings on it. It just looked like a slightly fancier version.
Mm-hmm. I actually made a forum post about that exact thing, comparing those two.
Okay,
I had a big rant about those. Yeah, so I'm with you. Yeah,
okay, so that's a little weird. I mean, you can tell the difference between the Godslayer mount and the Fire Lion mount, like you can, because the Fire Lion one is literally just fire, and much like the skin, you get the ice and fire thing, so you can tell that mount. But again, it's pretty similar. There is 0 mounts from PvP, so that from an end game perspective is like non-existent. There isn't one. There's 2 from achievements, like skill, I guess, for lack of a better word, skill or practice achievements, because you get the Rock Grove trifecta and you've got the Godslayer one.
Right.
And then you've got the couple horses you can buy, which is just, I'm new to the game, and they give you one even, like, that's fine. And then there's the Antiquities mount, which, again, that's fine because it gives somebody that doesn't want to do endgame stuff a reason, or if Antiquities are your endgame, that's fine. That's like a cumulative thing, so you can do that one. That's it. But that's it. You got those three, unless I'm forgetting anything, correct?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there's that skin that we just talked about from Kindzagus, and then there was the one from, was it the Dreads? No, not Dreadseller. What's the Cauldron? There was that one from the Cauldron where you're kind of bleedy, I guess. I don't know. It was like, that was another one where it looked very similar to the one from the store. I think the one from the store might have glowed more, if I'm thinking of the correct place you get it from. But again, like, there's that weird thing where I get the whole business aspect. That's fine, whatever. But like, it's kind of weird that when you do have something that you can earn in game, not even arguing like, oh, there needs to be more. There does, but it's weird to have an easily confusable version you can just purchase. That's a very weird, almost counterpoint to people wanting to strive to do stuff.
That's my biggest issue with stuff like that, is when they start to blur together and people can't tell. Like, I think the biggest thing that is when they nail it with an achievement is when you can immediately tell that someone did an achievement because of their skin or because of the mount that they have or whatever it is. If you just know immediately, like, they did that thing, because it's just Nefas.
I'm just saying, fucking go get him, man. Go get him.
Go get him.
I'm just cheering you on.
You know, the worm personality where you're like,
oh yeah,
like that's so cool, and it
People
ties into
love
the theme of it.
And
yeah,
that's so. And I guess that's kind of one of the things. Those are actually, man, Dragon Bones and Wolf Hunter, not the skin from the whatever the skin was from I don't know what it's not March of Sacrifices, whatever the other one. Why am I spacing on the name of this? Moonhunter Keep. That skin, I don't know anybody that wears that, like the werewolf thing or the no, I don't know anybody that wears that or whatever. But like the
at
beast,
least it's like tied to the.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just like cause it's the same thing with the Black Rose Prison skin, like the his thing. Like that's one of the ones that didn't go over so hot. But like to that extent though, like there's the one from doing the trifecta. Well, the challenger from Scalecaller. You get that Black Marrow Necromancer thing with the blue glowy stuff. I know people really like that. You get that, like you said, the Worm Wizard. That's like a huge dude. People still want to do those dungeons because of those things, because they look cool and everybody like loves that stuff. And the other one, which I still get, it's always so weird because I don't know. People are always, for lack of a better way of putting this, people are selling carries to try to get people the wolf personality, whatever. Like people still want that, like because you run funny and it's like everybody likes that. It's March of Sacrifices still after all this time is like a decent challenge. Like it's a fun dungeon, but it's like a challenging dungeon, and it's like. People still go back and do that, or look for teams to prog that, or try to buy runs just so they can have that. I don't think that, again, I don't know because I don't know their analytics, but I can't imagine having that stuff in game at the same time and not having really a comparable thing to like the beast personality like that. That can't possibly cost them much. Like people aren't not buying something else because they earned that. At least I can't imagine.
I think the only thing that might, and probably why we have so few mounts for the like end game stuff is when I got my Godslayer mount, I didn't ride any other mount for a long time. Like that. So like if it's I'm not easily accessible, but if they put it at a more accessible tier,
if they did like a dungeon like challenger or even a dungeon trifecta, right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you get the dreaded and you can ride around in that bloated tick thing from there or whatever. It's like, okay, fine. Like
that would be cool. Yeah. But I think maybe not where they first went wrong, but definitely a spot that I first noticed them going wrong is when they Bloodroot Forge, they put the skin for sale that you would have thought would come from completing that, and they put a hat as the reward for that dungeon. And the hat was just like what does this have to do with this dungeon? Like, but then the crown crates that came out right after that, they had 3 of that same hat in the crown crate, but like slightly different like parts around the neck.
Sure,
you know, like they're so it was clear this was like part of that
thing, and they just stuffed one in,
and they I'd like that. I mean, so now instead of having this obviously tied to the dungeon blood forged skin that you could have got, you get a hat that just like doesn't make any sense. And then recently with Vet Rockgrove as well, for the veteran mode, and then for the vet hard mode, you get body markings for the vet, and then face
that's right,
for the hard mode. The hard mode is probably one of the lowest completion rates I'd say their trials have had for hard modes. Like,
I'm sure
this far into it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And you get like some little face markings for doing it that don't like, you don't see those face markings and think he did Rockgrove hard mode. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like you don't make that connection.
It's
like,
it's the mount there or nothing.
Yeah, they need that. They need those achievements and the cosmetics to go with them that are actually tied to those events that you do, so people can see them and know that that's what that person did, you know. And I really hate that they've kind of strayed away from that with a lot of them recently.
Well, that, and because also that's kind of the thing, is it's currently like much like we were talking about, like where we started all of this was kind of like the tiered approach where it's like, okay, you got normal, you got vet, you get vet hard mode. With cosmetics, it's a little more, you entered the dungeon, that's your first tier, or you entered the trial.
It's actually all it takes.
You literally step through the door. And then the second tier is you beat it. So there you go. And the final tier is you got the trifecta hard mode. And it's like...
You skipped a tier there. Where's the hard mode clear?
I was going to say, most of the time it's like, what you get like a title? It's like... Sometimes, like, or you get something like you said with the face marking. It's so, like, if you wear a helmet, you literally can't even see your award. It's impossible. Like, so that's just it. It seems like the reward system is almost in a similar way to the difficulty system. It's so tiered. Like, if somebody's going to want to progress to something, the goalpost is so far away from, hey, we did this on normal, to then our next step for the next big cosmetic we get is, oh, not only did we do the hard mode, we did all 3 hard modes in less than time and nobody died in the entire trial. It's like, that is a huge jump in like, hey, I did the thing, to I completely perfected this thing. And that's where your next like checkpoint is for a thing to unlock. So like there's no like tiered getting better for the chance of like earning more of something.
I mean, when I started getting into dungeons, they were doing those rewards like the worm personality and stuff, and those drove me to get better, because you know, like some of that stuff now, as like someone who's played for so long, you can kind of get in there and like blast through some of those achievements, and it's not too bad. But back then it took a lot of prog with the group to like get those achievements, and And if those weren't there, like, I don't think I would have maybe even worked on a lot of those. I wouldn't have really cared.
Yeah.
Like, why work on getting the no death and the hard mode and the speed run, like, if there's nothing tied to it? And I guess it's shown with some of the later dungeons that don't have something tied to doing those things. I'd just, like, if I find a group that wants to do it, cool. If not, like, I don't really care, you know? So, but if they did have that stuff, I would definitely want to go after it and, like, get these cool new cosmetics to show off and walk around on my characters.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
All I'm hearing is I'm not hearing English. I'm hearing truth. I'm hearing facts. That's all I'm hearing. I'm just saying. I have a theory.
All right.
I think they have one person in charge of rewards. I think I think that's really it. You know, there's one person deciding where the rewards go. It doesn't make sense to me, man. I think they also have this person has a budget. I think there's a budget. I think there's a freaking budget, man. And, you know, I might be crazy for thinking about. I thought about it. I think there's a budget.
I think you might be right with that. That would make sense.
Starting in 2020, why do we get a skin for VKA, but no mount? It's a memento, right?
Yeah.
And then fast forward a year later, why are we getting a mount but no skin?
Right.
There's a budget. There's a hidden budget there somewhere, I think, where they are calculating. I don't know how they're calculating it. Maybe the calculator is broken, but I think there's this one person just determining all this. I think so. I really think so.
That's an interesting take that I hadn't considered, but you might be onto something. Yeah, because it is. And that's one of the things. The rewards are incredibly erratic, to your point. It's like Dawnbringer, you get a momentum. It's like, all right, that's weird that it's this memento mount, but at least in Sunspire you get the skin, okay, but the next year you get a skin and a memento, and then you get no skin and a mount again that are potential unlocks. So it's like you might be right. It's like, because it's so erratic, and again, there's no consistency to it, and sometimes they look so similar to something you can buy. It gets this weird scenario where it's like, okay, well, everybody's just got an amalgamation of all this random crap that people are generally, in my experience, people are just excited when you can, like, again, whether you think carries are a good thing or a bad thing, but it's almost like its own market thing. Like, remember even with the polymorph chance of dropping from Asylum, that's even like a thing. It's like, okay, well, then you turn it into, it's not even like a single accomplishment. It's a thing you could grind for or like encourage people to repeat on type of thing. And it's like, they haven't done anything. Have they done a thing like that again? Like a chance to drop something like that again? I can't think of one.
I don't think so.
So it's like, that was a unique thing from that trial that's never really been used again, and that one didn't have a mount, but it had the silver skin thing as well. So it's like, it's the incentives game is very strange when it comes to
it is
things to work toward in game, because that's an end game that isn't even just skill based. Like you could do that from a lot of different angles and have that be your end game. That's something you work toward, like whether it's collection, whether you're doing the wolf thing that sounds like a fire engine going off from Antiquities or whatever. It's like, okay, well, that can be your end game. You just piece this thing together. Some of them, it's like, okay, like you work to your Godslayer or your Planesbreaker or whatever. They could do, you know, oh, you get a mounted Grand Overlord if you manage to get to 5 stars or something like that. Instead, you get a brown die. Like that's your reward for getting 65 million AP. Like, or I guess off yellow, whatever it is. But like, that's just it. It's like, it's kind of just very erratic what you get for the amount of effort you put in. And housing added some things to some things, but again, if you don't do housing, That's really not going to be a huge incentive, I guess. And even that stuff is pretty erratic as well.
They just need to revisit the whole reward structure of the entire game.
Yeah.
PvP, PvE. I mean, look at transmutes. Why am I getting 10 transmutes from random normal, but only what is it, like 5 or 10 transmutes from weekly coffer in trial?
5.
Five. Yeah, you get 5, and from your rewards from the worthy, you get between 1 and 10 once a day. Like that's another one. So
it's all over the place. That's what
it is. It is all over the place. It doesn't make sense. I mean, there's really no other way to put it.
Yeah,
I can't wrap my head around what they're going for.
It's gotta be one person. It can't be a team. There's no way.
It can't be a team. It's impossible.
There's no way it can be a team, bro. It's gotta be one person. I can't fathom it. How can a team of people think, oh, you know what? This makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, that's just it. It's such a strange thing, because that's generally, from my understanding with MMOs, a lot of times that's your hook. Like, you give that carrot on a stick that people keep working for. And one thing that I like that this game does that other games do, or this game doesn't do that other games do, is the constant, like, there's new gear all the time, but all the sets, since they normalized all that stuff that, a while back, where it's like, okay, your gear's CP 160, that's it. You mix and match your sets. Like, they do their things and they change them around and what they do and stuff like that. But like in things like, Destiny or whatever, from back when I played that, it was just like, okay, new season's out, all this gear is just, you have to get this, because it's not even like styles of things, because obviously sets have flavors and they work better together, but you can do some stuff even a lot of times with old sets in this game. Burning Spell Weave, like those sets are still practical, like and they do stuff, monster sets, stuff like that, because the new stuff isn't just straight up, well, this just does more damage because it's a higher level, because the level cap has been normalized for so long. That's something I like. But then yeah, I do too. It's one of my favorite things about how gear works in this game. But then they've eliminated the gear treadmill as a result. However, then your incentive, which would normally be, I got to get new gear, which to an extent can be, because if you get a new set that comes out and it's like, oh, I really want that, or a new mythic, sure. But like, that's not so much the focus. Whereas you'd think earning stuff like this could be a focus, which it is in some other games, but it's not there in this. That's or it's random. Like it's it might be, but like it's
Can I be serious?
Yeah.
I'll be serious. I'm not going to joke about the calculator or whatever. I'm going to be serious, but it's going to be kind of depressing to hear. But I think they're only interested in cyclical players. The entire business model, everything. The player behavior they want to encourage, especially with the elimination of RNG with item sets, I think they do want more cyclical player behavior. So like get new players in, have them hit shit, and then right, and then business wise also, you're more likely to spend money as a cyclical player. Okay, I follow what you're saying. I definitely think that's a huge part of it. And they said this back in 2017 that they want to focus. They didn't say like, oh, we want money, but they said they want to make it so that it's more friendly to cyclical players. Matt Fury said that 2017, Morrowind. So okay. I don't know. All right, yeah, no, I mean that kind of feeds into. It's depressing. Kind of some of that. It's a little weird for those of us who have been around for a very long time to know that that's their focus, type of thing. Business-wise, it makes sense because right now ESO is not just ZOS's product; it's also ZeniMax Media's product. Correct. The parent company, and right now it's not Skyrim or Fallout 76, whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. It's not Skyrim 10th anniversary edition that's making the most money. The biggest money maker right now is ESO. Yes. So they also got acquired for how much now? 7.2 billion. they need to pay that off, right?
The ESO was part of the reason for that.
Right, they need to pay that off too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So
it's a big reason.
you know, it's you want they want to.
No, and that totally makes sense. I mean, it is kind of depressing, especially because like the three of us have been here for quite a while. And to be fair, I don't really plan on going anywhere.
Okay.
But at the same time, it is weird to think that it's like in some form, which is kind of like strange to say, being people who make stuff about the game, we end up being more known, but we're theoretically on that also not the focus. Like, because we're pretty much, you know, we're going to be here, we're going to do our challenges for what we're interested in and stuff like that. But I mean, I stand by the fact that I am pretty much the pinnacle of everything that companies don't want out of a player, because I don't even sub to ESO Plus.
What? Really?
Yeah, I know.
What the fuck? How's this man alive?
I know.
I used to play the game.
Yeah. Dude, every time there's a free ESO Plus trial, I do as many surveys as humanly possible, so I have writs until the next time it lands. Yeah. Because I don't, again, like the cosmetics joke aside, I really don't have a lot of purpose to spending crowns. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to build up this like infinite supply of crowns. I don't need gold in game because I just earn enough. So I'm like, is a craft bag worth this to me? And I'm like, nah, it's not. So I just, I ever since what I used to do, I used to sub just to get the crowns to buy the DLC. And then I would like drop. And now that you can do the crown exchange, I just buy it in gold from people selling crowns. So like the thing I buy each year is I love the physical crap, like the fucking wall of it behind me. Like I've got all the collector's editions, all that stuff. I love that stuff. So it's like, okay, I'm all in for that. But the stuff I like to buy is the least popular thing in the game, which is new things to do.
Right.
It's where they make the least of their money, like by a landslide. So that's my main draw. So I'm always like, oh, cool. At bare minimum, I'm going to do story stuff because like I like the story to the series because I'm a huge Elder Scrolls person. But like I've long kind of known I'm not their target demographic, but thinking of the fact that they're looking for kind of, like you said, cyclical players, it's like, oh, wow, I'm actually less of their target demographic than I even realized, because it's like, huh, that would make sense.
But there's hope.
Yeah.
I think there's three hopes in this. The first one is, I think there's crown store fatigue. For sure. There's fatigue now with the crown store. Not just with endgame players, but now other players have noticed. It's not just us complaining about it, it's also casual players now. Yes. You know,
I've seen that a lot on Twitter.
Well, Twitter is a very small sample.
It is definitely.
I've been observing it not just on Twitter, but also Reddit.
Sure.
The YouTube. I mean, obviously that's also a smart fashion, but you know,
but you combine them all together and you get a better sample size. Sure. Right.
There's definitely, just like how there's fatigue with combat balancing, there's now fatigue with crown store, and that's why the whole respect scroll blew up. It wasn't about the respect scrolls.
Because they've been there forever.
Yeah, exactly, and they also promoted that, by the way, like 2 times before on Twitter.
I was going to say, I remember that. That's why I was kind of like, cool. I remember at one point people were like, nobody's ever really been like, oh, that's a great thing to have in the game. And I'm like, okay, that I've never heard. But like you said, it's been promoted before and it wasn't that big of a thing. And the same thing with the werewolf bites and the vampire bites. So it's like, okay, yeah, those have been in there forever too. And it's like people have always just kind of casually been like, yeah, those are dumb. Like don't buy those. Those are dumb. Just get it from somebody in game and you're fine. And then this last time it was like, holy shit, everybody is mad.
Next time it's going to be bigger, whatever it is about, because there's fatigue with crown sword, because people who are grinding the endeavors or buying the crown crates are getting more and more frustrated.
Yeah, right.
They really are. Yeah. It's actually kind of interesting to watch. But it's I think there's going to be a breaking point maybe within the next 2 or so years. I would say. And also the second hope is also like maybe the demographics could change. I don't know. I mean, I think that's probably the most far-fetched hope. And the third hope, I think, is a lot more ESO players have been playing like between quarter. I don't know why it happens between quarter 3 and quarter 4. Maybe
I know.
lack of content or something like that. But a lot of ESL players tend to play other games between these periods of time. And you know what game blew up recently? Is Final Fantasy 14. Again, they blew up again.
Oh yeah. It blew up so much that they literally had to stop selling the game because there was nowhere else to blow it up. Like,
and now the ESL players go over there and experience this new culture of the game. It's like, oh my, there's mounts everywhere, right? All these rewards everywhere. They're bringing these like sentiments back to the game too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So maybe like in the end, ideally, something would be learned from that. Hopefully,
I think so.
Right.
I mean, for sure.
Interesting. No, and that's just it. That's kind of like a good positive spin on something that's kind of dark.
No, it is a hope too, because I know some of the devs have played Final Fantasy and New World, and some of these other games, and in all the negative things with New World, there's definitely a lot of things that game does really well, and so it is the hope that they'll pull some of that, and those games will make ESO a better game, and with the incentives. Especially because I'm with both of you. That's where they need a lot of work.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's like so many. The last year, they added a ton of quality of life stuff that was like super great. I really like a lot of it, and some of the things that added were a little. They're good, but then also had that weird side effect to them. Like the armory is a really cool feature, especially for like console. But then it came with some caveats that didn't go so well, where you had to pay for the dude, and each of the slots you buy is to a character. Again, one of the other guests on the show added up. If you had 18 characters and you bought all of the slots for all of the characters, it was like 285,000 crowns, I think. It was something completely ridiculous.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, because he's like, well, you can
wait. How much is that on sale?
I think that's close. That's got to be like close to $2,000 on sale. I think.
Yeah. It's because you got 18 characters, you got 12 slots, and each one is like 1,500 per thing, and that's what are you not going to have the dude who follows you around at that point? I mean, just spend the extra $50. You're that deep in, I think that's super great. Like I didn't actually realize exactly how much I would like that, but since I play one character, I'm like, oh, cool. One of the things that I used to hate was when I was working on Flawless Conqueror, and now I'm working on Spirit Slayer. I don't know, whatever the one is for the trifecta in. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So the reason I never liked practicing those things was because I was like, dude, I don't want to respec all this crap on my tank. And that's who I'm going to do it on, because that's who I want the thing on. So I was like, oh my God, I got to go change my morphs. I got to change my attributes. The gears, whatever, you can just slap that on. But I was like, oh my God, this is going to take forever. So I just never practiced. And eventually I just found a really cheap werewolf build, and I got Flawless Conqueror, and it took me like an hour and 17 minutes because it was so fucking slow on a tank. But I was like, whatever, I didn't die. I can't do that with Vodastron because I have a time limit. I was like, God damn it, that's not going to work here. So but then this thing came out, one button click, I'm like, cool, now I'm an actual Maj DK, like perfect. I just gotta like not die and stuff. So it's like, that's great. But the only
30 minutes of time saved in one button.
Exactly. It's like, that to me is awesome. But then you kind of get these things where you actually, again, one of the videos that I remember being kind of interesting was when they were trying to explain why you couldn't use the armor assistant in timed events, like a trial, like a vet trial. And that was a little weird because they had kind of a weird reasoning behind it with the pay to win thing, which I thought was a strange way of putting that.
Yeah.
Oh, skinny, your face.
Strange. That's one way to word that.
Strange. We'll go with strange.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I'm practicing to be a politician and not say bad things, but at the same time say them. But no, it's a very weird. Yeah, that's a choice. And for the most part, at first I was like, I don't care. And then once I used it in practice, because you can use it in dungeons, which is peculiar to me, because you do have a timer in there, but it's not a leaderboard timer.
Oh, okay.
So I actually can flip my stuff in the middle of a speed run in a dungeon. I just can't do it in a trial. That's just straight up fucking weird. Like, why? Like, it made it even more arbitrary once I figured that out. Because then it's just like, what an arbitrary distinction at that point. And then, you know, again, I don't play with add-ons because one, I'm on console. Surprise, surprise. And even when I'm on PC, I've never actually really bothered with much of anything. So, so I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then I realized, like, when we were, when I've run a couple of things recently, like when we started our Godslayer prog, and I'm like, dude, I really wish I could just switch my shit here. Like, this would be so much easier. Then it kind of made me realize how much I'm like, oh, dude, that add-on is so much better in this regard than this armor, which you actually pay for. Like, that was kind of the click moment for me when I was like, huh, so can this thing just like work in trials then? Like, what just make it work in trials? Like, I don't, it's really weird that you have a third-party add-on that can technically do something, and it's totally fine on one platform. On the other two, you have one that you can buy, but it doesn't actually do the thing that you can use a free add-on on PC.
Well, now my worry is they're going to come for the API for the add-on.
Oh, shit.
I mean, they've been vocal. Both, I think Rich and Gilliam have both said that they haven't said that they hated, but they've said they don't think it's a good feature that you can change gear on the fly, like in the middle of a run. And I know for sure Rich has said he thinks it's, I don't know if he used the word cheese, but something along those lines, like it's a bit cheesy to have a trash setup and then be able to swap for a boss setup.
They definitely didn't like pre-buffing.
Oh yeah, they've pretty much taken care of the big offenders with that one. Like,
okay, even I'm aware of that from the console side. Yeah. It's like, yeah,
but they got rid of most of that.
Yeah,
I mean, there's still like
they hated that.
You can do some small things still that don't really matter that much. But,
sure,
but yeah, like there was some crazy pre-buff stuff, which I get that aspect. That was a little bit like, all right, I'm just cheesing my add-ons right now to like get some crazy stuff.
I think it was funny.
But like swapping your gear, like when you're not in combat, that's not that cheesy. To me personally, I don't think that's really that wild. Like, oh, you're just changing your loadout. Like, it's a pretty normal thing to do in a game,
right? And if they're going to add a feature that allows you to do it in one like one button press like that, it seems weird to be so concerned about 2/3 of the market not being able to do that when the PC can already do that. It's just like that, especially since 2/3 of the market is paying for it. So you'd think that would probably be included, unless, I guess to your point, unless it's something they plan on coming for someone soon. I never thought of it that way.
I'm gonna.
You're betting on videos, right? Oh, the videos will be fire. Yo, I kind of hope they will.
I think they've done such a good job with making so many sets relevant for so many different situations. And if they came out and like got rid of gear swapping on the fly, they would just throw out so many of those sets. You just all of a sudden you just squish it down to these few that you'd want to run. So
you think that would kill rating? Like,
I think people would quit for sure. I think a lot of people.
I would assume a lot of people would not be okay with any of that.
Man, I don't know.
I think some people would be okay with it. I think some people would like it. Actually,
I think so too.
Yeah, because it'd be like one less worry. Like, oh, I don't have to worry about this aspect of it. I just put on like my middle of the ground set that can do everything well and go through the run and don't worry about anything else.
Yeah, that's me.
But a lot of people don't want to play like that. They want to optimize every little bit.
Yep.
And I think that's a cool play style too. So yeah, I'll be vocal if they come for that.
Shit.
That is a pretty hot take. I for some reason I didn't consider that. I don't know. That's
We'll see. Maybe they won't.
Well, no, it's just an interesting thought because I never think of it. So as somebody who just doesn't have the option for add-ons most of the time, I'm always mesmerized what they allow with them, which I get a decent amount of flack from some people on PC where they're like, well, it doesn't really change it that much. I'm like, well, I mean, you can't activate a synergy. I think that changes something pretty substantially.
Maybe that would have been true like 2.5, 3 years ago. But add-ons have evolved to the point where I'm starting to think, man, I think the console players are right.
Yeah, no, I
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Don't clip this for YouTube.
Don't clip. It's too late. We're keeping the video version of this forever.
Dude, the things add-ons can do now is so insane.
Yes, it is.
You can put markers down now, Skinny. You seen that add-on? What's it called?
The A, B, and C, and on the
A, B, and C, and then you got the Lotus circles. I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah,
you know,
I haven't seen the Lotus one. I haven't been in there in a while.
Bro, they like the add-on puts down like these like circles where you should stand.
Yes.
Just like,
so,
bro, and I was like, bro,
it's weird, and that's why it's like, hey, man, I just always consider at this point, I'm like, look, man, maybe it's just because I'm a console plebite, but I'm like, some of this shit, I'm like, dude, I don't even understand what's happening. I actually was looking at, because we're about to start our Unchained prog, because it's one of the remaining 4-player things we got to do. So I was like, okay, cool. And I just happened to click on a video just to like watch this. I was like, all right, I got to try to memorize these spawns. And the synergies were activated so you couldn't not do hard mode. So you could just use the whole arena.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that gives you a lot more space when you can do that. And then all of a sudden it starts putting pointers where the enemies are coming up right before they do. I was like, oh, cool. So you don't have to remember. Never mind. I need a different video. It's like, this isn't helping me. Like, this is a different project to do. I mean, I guess I could watch his video and look, but I was like, yeesh, this is not really what I was expecting to see when I saw that. Which I've long said, I don't, again, because I'm not trying to be like, oh, look how fucking good I am. I can do all these things. I'm better than you. I don't care. You do you. You play your game however you want. And that's totally fine. But it's one of those weird things where, like, I sometimes run into these videos where I'm like, this is useless because there's too many add-ons. I can't even tell what I'm actually doing, and I'm not sure this person knows what they're doing. When I blind stream new dungeons, I've had people in chat question why I'm doing things. Like when we first got the Cauldron on console, I had some people in chat joking. They were like, "You're watching you do this hard mode, like, and try to figure out what the hell you're doing because your group's doing it blind." They're like, watching you do this is stressing me out because you don't have anything telling you when to block. Because I had to keep spinning my camera around while we were running.
Wait, what?
So when the dude does the like heavy swing, the person was complaining that I had to turn because we were sprinting out of the flame cross thing, and he's heavy attacking behind me. But I quickly learned that his heavy attack doesn't match, like the impact doesn't match where his animation is, so he can hit you past where his sledgehammer looks like it is. So I had to run with my camera backwards while we were doing the thing because we were trying to figure out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they were like, you spinning your camera around like this is making me sick because I kept whipping it around, but I didn't know what we were looking at in front of us, because I was like, I don't know when execute starts. I don't know when anything's going on. So I'm like spinning the camera back and forth, and people were like, this is making me nauseous. Like, she just look forward. I was like, I can't look forward because I'm going to get smashed because I can't see back there. And they're like, yeah, it's a lot easier when it just like tells you when to block. I was like, I'm sure it fucking does make that a lot easier, but like, I can't do that. Like, I don't have that right now. So it's just like the two things definitely play a lot different. I mean, that's not even a complicated add-on compared to like what you were talking about with like maybe like where to stand with Locestes or something like that. That's pretty intense, but just like it's a really different experience with and without those things.
And I think Nefas said this. I wouldn't mind if they came for some of that. Like it is a little bit like
to a degree.
Yeah,
and I understand.
My gear swapping, please.
Gear swapping.
Just don't come for that. Like
we've just come so far.
Thing. Yeah,
it's just compounded by everything, power creep, and now add-ons and everything else. Like it's just there's no more excuses anymore. There really is. Like, if you told me 3 years ago, 4 years ago that we'd have all this, I'm gonna be like, no way, dude. No way. But it's amazing at the same time.
All right, well, that is pretty much what I was hoping to chat about. That was no, the whole thing that spiraled off in like 45 different directions because I just realized we've been recording for 2 hours.
Oh yeah.
Well, almost 2.5. So like that
everything we've talked about is such a huge.
I know that, and that's just it. It's like there's nothing.
It's hard.
Nothing we discussed has a simple fix or a simple answer.
Have us back for another podcast, easy.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say
focus on one topic.
This could go on, but like this managed to. Yeah, this touched on a lot of stuff that I really wanted to, because we've been kind of doing a lot of shows for like the other end of the spectrum on how to like the starter side of things, and this is I like that this was able to cover some more of the other end of the spectrum and the complicated shit on the on the like, hey, we've been here for a while stuff. But I guess like just to close things out, what do you call it? In the tail section or whatever, I saw you typed up some stuff. Skinny and Nefas, obviously, you'll have the same option. What have you been like up to in game, around game, any of that stuff as of late? Anything of interest? Since this is the first time both of you had been able to join us, so.
What have you been up to?
So I have a new website that I've been working on.
Oh hell yeah!
Yes, you do.
It's almost presentable.
It's almost presentable.
It's gonna be a little bare bones at first, but like I'm trying to limit the coming soon sections to as much as possible for when I actually put it out, so that there is like actually a good bit of content on it when it does go live, and it's not just like, well, this might be good down the road, but actually, so that should be out in a couple days, hopefully. Skinnycheeks.gg.
Sweet.
Oh yeah,
sweet.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. It's been a lot of work, even though I'm not doing anything super complicated at all, but it's still like way more than I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah, website is, man.
I could tell. And mine is nothing like what your site is, Nevis.
No, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter.
So crazy complicated.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because it's. I know. It's a lot harder.
The time requirement is mind-boggling to me.
It's not just time. It's like, oh my god, like, man. That's why
I was I should have it out for the new year, and then like. The first rolled around, I was like, I'll probably have it out in a few days from now. And now it's what, the 9th? I'm like, it's almost done. Yeah, it's rough. But yeah, other than that, in game, I just started a Planesbreaker Prog this week.
Nice.
So finally gonna do that guild I talked about earlier that I've been with. Since we started out progging Craglorn stuff, so that's we're doing it now.
Nice.
We got our hard mode clears like early December, late November-ish, and then we pretty much took off for the holidays, and we're just like, let's take a break, let's relax a little bit, and then January we'll come back at it hard and go for this trifecta. So we got a long ways to go, but it's there's a lot of good info out there now at this point to go off of.
Yep. Different strats and whatever.
Yeah. So hopefully our Godslayer took us 5 months, so hopefully it doesn't take that long, but we'll see. It might. But I think we're all kind of like, we're in for it if it does.
Sure.
We're just gonna go for it till we get it, pretty much.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm up to.
Are you guys gonna do Stam or Mag?
Mag.
Oh my gosh.
We're not brave enough for Stam.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, what have you been up to, Nefas? I was going to say, I know you joined the land of the PlayStation relatively.
I finally got a PlayStation 5. It's kidding when you were like, oh, I kind of want a PlayStation. I was like, good luck. Yeah. They celebrated their 1 year anniversary before I got my PlayStation 5. That's crazy.
I still joke. I didn't actually get mine. I got beat by bots. One of my buddies got a second one. He's like, you can just buy this one. I was like, oh, thank you, God, because I had no chance. Shit. Yep. They picked him twice in like that Sony drawing thing. I was like, are you kidding me? He was like, yeah, I don't need two. He's like, you can buy mine. I was like, okay, amazing, because I could not beat those bots to save my life. So
the only reason how I got mine was they were selling bundles at the GameStop in Texas.
Oh, okay.
And there's someone I know who works at that GameStop in Texas. And I live in near Philly in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
So yeah, that took a while. Yeah. But anyway, what have I been up to? Oh man. So I've been doing Stam and the Planesbreaker. That's been going interestingly. And I've been Theorycrafting.
Pretty close, right? Like 31 vitality.
We're 5 vitality away.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and we can do it. People keep asking, "Oh, is eating Stam as well?" I'm like, these, because so many new raiders. I mean, there's a lot of new raiders on PC. I don't know if you know this, Skinny, but there's a lot of new players or new raiders that started playing like 2019, 2020. A lot, like I'm talking hundreds of them. And they don't even know about Stam. They don't know anything about Stam.
Yeah,
because Stam was before, like, what was it like before late in 2019? So it's been interesting. But yeah, other than that, making builds as usual, or just maintain the ESO website. We finished adding more features. We finally finished adding the skills pages.
Yeah, your site's looking good.
Yeah,
they look really good. Yeah.
Hopefully, and then we finally added the knowledge search base where there's over like 400 some questions asked by like players over the last 2 years in the ESOU Discord. Everything going from like game issues to like addressing how do you any tips for DPSing Zamaja, or is there a difference between console and place? The stat differences between PC and Xbox. There's there's urban myths and shit.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's, and we finally released that, and that'll be maintained, and just growing YouTube and Twitch. But I also have pretty big plans for this summer because I'm going full time.
Hell yeah!
Because within the next 4 months, I'm hoping to finish my degree, and it's basically going to be
like 8 classes, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, how many classes did you have?
It's not really class, but it's like 25 credits.
Credits worth, yeah, but even still,
credits worth. Yeah. So
woof.
So there's a problem though. Like they don't want me to take more than 24. So I'm just like, no. I want to take 25. I'm just going over by 1 credit. Come on, guys. Throw me a bone. So we'll see how that goes. And then after that, I go full time. I have big plans for ESO.
Nice.
In terms of not just content, but like communal ones.
Sure.
Like,
cool.
I wanna like exponentially grow the raiding community. I'm not talking about a couple training groups or whatever. I'm talking about thousands, hopefully thousands of people raiding. Can you? And I look at the ESO runs. You ever ESO runs the server, Skinny?
I saw you did a podcast with the guy that runs that, right?
Yeah. But have you been in there?
I joined it when I saw that podcast. So I was like, oh, I'll check this out.
2,000 plus PCNE players pugging trials. Imagine that, but everywhere. Xbox, PC,
I can't
PlayStation.
fathom that. That's like mind blowing.
The vision. I have so many ideas in my head and try out, but I just don't have the time because it's fucking degree. So hopefully I can tackle it in summer.
That would be pretty amazing.
I have a lot of plans.
Yeah.
because I'm sick of it. I'm sick
What
of.
I feel like that would also do a lot for kind of like cutting out that like weird getting to end game patience problem if people are almost build up a tolerance and are used to how trials go when you're not just immediately going in and needing to ace everything. Like that might actually even help change that type of mentality and make it normal to, oh, look, we didn't, somebody screwed up, we didn't one pull twins. Okay, we're not disbanding the group and everybody can get fucked. Like that, that shouldn't be the norm. And like something like that might actually get people used to that not being the norm.
Yeah. I feel like I've come a long way in terms of normalizing rating, at least within like content culture, at least on Twitch. I think we did an amazing job with that. Like now, 2 years ago, it was just me and J-Dub streaming raids.
Right.
Like streamers. Now you have, if you look at the ESO Twitch directory, a lot of people are streaming raids. Teams are streaming raids, and it's really cool to see. But now I think it's like a time to take a step further. Like actually grow the community. Stop complaining about, oh, I can't find things, I can't find aliens, or whatever. Or that, oh, we're a minority, they'll never listen to us. And part of that goes back to like the target demographic, right? With us, like if that demographic grows, well, you have a voice.
Right.
If you have a community, you have a voice. And that's what went wrong with PvP. They don't have a voice.
Yeah, they didn't have a voice. They didn't have a voice, and they don't. Right? Yeah,
PvE, exactly. So I see PvPers on this thing. I can't do that. That'd be heartbreaking, man. I don't know, man. That's heartbreaking.
Maybe that's my calling for the future.
There you go. There we go. Each one of you holds the fate of one of the demographics of ESO in your hands.
Yeah, big plans, hopefully.
Nice. Well, I'm eager to see that. Yeah.
TwitchCon? Question mark?
PAX.
If they have it, I'd like to go.
San Diego. They're planning to do it. I'm going to PAX East to meet up with other people, like Ari and Ninetail and other people.
I was going to say, that's where I live. So, like, I go to PAX East. Yeah, I was going to say,
oh, shit, we're going to meet up.
Yeah, I was going to say, dude, people always joke that that's where they see me because I drive down the street to go to PAX East. Like, that's pretty much it. So it's like, I don't travel to PAX East. I'm just like, yeah, cool. And a lot of times, like, I've been telling Matty Gone if he comes. I was like, dude, I'll show you where to get all the good seafood. Like, that's what my wife and I do on the weekend. We'll go to, like, Faneuil Hall and get some, like, lobster rolls and stuff. It's like, that's where I am. Yeah. So,
how about the Friday and Saturday pass?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say nope. That's nice. So hopefully, fingers crossed, PAX East actually is a thing because I also hope. I mean, again, there's no word yet, at least, but as much fun as PAX East is, I always say Bethesda Game Days is better than PAX East itself. They haven't had one, obviously because of COVID, but they haven't had one since Microsoft bought them either. And I'm curious if they're going to have the same budget because I don't understand how that was cost effective, as you got 2 free drinks of any type you wanted, and it was catered the entire time you were there to literally everybody. You didn't need to have like a special pass just showing up. And they had like, they ordered Chinese one of the times, like it was a Chinese buffet. Another one, it was literally lobster mac and cheese and lobster sliders, and people were like, the hell kind of thing is this? I was like, dude, everybody come here and just get lunch. I was like, just leave PAX East, get lunch, and then you can go back or whatever. And nobody left because they're like, this is
where
great.
Crown money's going.
Skinny, come to PAX East, dude.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm going to Cancun right before.
Cancun, okay.
Me and my wife and I, our birthdays are early April, so we're nice. Going for our birthdays. So that would be a little crazy to like turn around and immediately fly up to Boston.
Yeah, PAX, on the bright side, PAX East won't be in March this year, which people get very shell-shocked when they get off the plane. They're like, why is it 3 degrees and there's just snow and dirt everywhere? It's like, welcome to Boston, everybody. It sucks here. But, yeah, so fingers crossed that doesn't get canceled and because I miss those types of things. Last thing I did was PAX East a couple years ago in that ESO Vegas, and then I didn't realize those would be the last things that anybody ever did because everything would just be closed forever after that.
I wish I went to ESO Vegas.
Yeah, that was... I stand by the fact that was I was hesitant about going, and my wife's just like, I want to go to Vegas, so we should go to Vegas. And she's like, you do your nerd thing for whatever day that is. And then I was like, wait, really? She's like, yeah. She's like, I'll find something to do. She's like, that's fine. So she's like sending me, she's like, look, I'm at I found this weird ass bar. She's like, I'm pretty close to the thing. So just tell me when you're done. I'm like, all right, I'm glad we went to that, because then everything blew up out there. So, what do you call it? Yeah. So I guess you've been up to anything else that your thing website. Hopefully, I was going to say, I hope you get your degree nice and quick so you can actually focus on all the shit you want. So
yeah, for sure.
As for me, I was going to say, I did some of that New Year event. I got that house thing, and just because I didn't know what to do with it. And they put in that new style thing that dropped, the Carved Nordic. I think that wins the award for the worst drop rate I've ever seen on anything. I got 0 pieces all event, nothing, literally nothing. All the pieces I learned were given to me by other people who got theirs. So my RNG has been like worse than usual somehow, and that's pretty insane because my RNG is not usually super great. The other thing I've done since I was last, here for a show, and I know you actually commented on the thing when I posted about it, was I got the Dreaded with my team from Dread Cellar, which again, I really like that dungeon, but me, I guess, maybe the least. The healer was real. She was real not happy. We got the Dreaded and it didn't count when we did it. And we watched through the video again and we still don't know why it didn't count. And
oh, yeah, I saw something about that.
Yeah, right? it just didn't pop. And we were like, we couldn't figure out what we did. And that was basically, we notoriously just waste time until our final pull and then we get our trifecta. So we're always like, we could just skip the first 2 hours of us not doing this. And then so we were so annoyed. They were just like, why don't we just do it again real quick? And I was like, okay, whatever. Because it was that easy. Yeah, sure. Let's just do it again. Like, whatever. And we went back in and we did it again. We did it a little faster. They were using Thracian Stranglers because, I don't know, they hate our healer and like to stress her out. And so we went through, we got the Dreaded a second time, and the second one counted. And we watched both the videos. We posted them in a couple different Discords and had people basically give their opinion. They're like, can you tell if we did something weird? And other than like a 14-second difference in time and one of the DPS's health getting below 50% at one point, we have absolutely no idea what changed between the two runs. Like, we cannot figure it out. I know there was a long-standing thing with Castle Thorn not popping for a lot of people way back when it launched, which I was MIA when my team actually ran that a while ago. So we, on the off week, we actually went back through for me and got Bane of Thorns as well, since it had been 2 weeks since the last show. So I knocked that one out. And we learned doing that with Thracian Stranglers is just miserable because you can't block her uppercut with more than 40 stacks. You have to dodge roll it or it's just a kill. So we kind of ditched the Thracian Stranglers for that one. I don't know what the fascination is with Thracian Stranglers at this point, but I think it's just they really like having crazy high weapon damage or spell damage on their thing. They got up to like 9,400 at one point, and they're just like, dude, I'm doing so much damage, but I'm made of glass. But yeah, so we knocked those out, which sets us to the only one since we started doing this earlier this year is I've got to do Frostvault, Moongrave Fane, and the Unchained. Those are the 3 remaining 4-player things I think I got, unless I'm forgetting anything. And then we'll have all the 4-player stuff done in the game until I assume Q1, where they release more dungeons or whatever. But yeah, so I was pretty happy to get that done. I actually really like the dreaded title. I'm not a big titles person, but I thought that one was pretty cool. You don't get anything else from those as far as I know. So, and the only other thing I've done is I started a YouTube channel because I don't really do that stuff. I do podcasts and that's pretty much it. But I started throwing up some of the VODs from Twitch, and I'm going to put up some stuff of varying different things. So I brought it up yesterday and was like, hey, I'm making this. I know I get a custom URL at 100 subs. So I was like, oh, if anybody wants to check it out, feel free. So shout out to literally all of you because I got that in 4 hours or whatever it was. So I've got my custom URL so I can actually start programming for the YouTube now, which is pretty neat. So thank you everybody who subbed over there. We're well over that already. So many thanks. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to actually start posting stuff there. Yeah, pretty much throughout the rest of the year. That's like my mini project for 2022. You guys got any other final thoughts on anything, or are we good? Anything at all? Anything you're looking forward to at all, in game, out of game? Anything you? Should we just talk about Crown Crafting? No, I'm just kidding. Please don't.
No, that's for a different podcast.
Yes, it is one that I'm not on.
For sure. Why not? Why are you on?
I have never bought a loot box in a video game.
Not a single game.
Never. I've opened the free ones they give me, but it's what's weirder, I don't have some type of moral opposition to them. I just hate the business model. I just think it's so stupid.
Well, it's not really about moral. I guess it's.
I mean, some people are morally opposed to like gambling or whatever. I have no like.
I don't mean that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like I have no. It's not that. It's just as a concept. I'm like, dude, this is so dumb because I hate I hate gambling. Nobody should gamble. I just don't gamble because I don't like losing money. That's like
I just don't like it because it's predatory.
So really yeah. So like the thing with those is, if there's a chance I'll get the thing, I'd rather just not bother. So like that's really it. It's not like any like deep seated or anything like that. So that's why like when people ask me about crown crates, I was like, don't know, never really dealt with them. I think it's a dumb business model, but it is what it is. It makes money.
Have you seen that website?
Which one?
ESO Crown Crates. CrownCrates.com.
Oh, CrownCrates.com.
Oh, with the chances.
The chances? Sure have.
Pretty abysmal.
And all that does is reaffirm that I'm glad that I didn't try because whatever I would have wanted, I wouldn't have gotten.
It's been insane this season. It's just been so bad.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's like not from a high horse type of perspective. It's just like, yeah, that shit's just not for me.
No.
But all right. Well, Skinny, where can people find you? Promote your shit.
This is like asking Burger King, hey, how can I find you?
Yeah.
Or like McDonald's, hey, what are you?
where you at, dude? No.
Most everything is just /SkinnyCheeks, except YouTube is Skinny Cheeks Gaming. And then in a couple of days, skinnycheeks.gg.
Yeah. And then if people don't know you as well, Nefas, where can people find you?
Please don't look for me. I just want people to leave me alone. I'm serious, man.
So don't find Nefas at Nefas.
Dude, I literally beg people to like unsubscribe, leave me, please, like block me on YouTube. Please go. Please don't give me a view. You know what happened?
Give me a view.
I gained 1,800 subscribers. I'm just like, what the fuck, man? I just don't care about numbers right now, man. Or like views.
That's a good thing to do, though.
I'm just sick of people. I'm just sick of people.
That's
always like misinterpreting what I'm saying or like whatever. I'm just sick of it.
All those reasonable discussions I see.
I just want to make videos, and that's it. Stop bothering me when we're pestering me, or blaming me, or scapegoating me. It's just annoying, man. Leave me alone.
That is like, the best promotion I've ever heard or anything.
I was serious about it.
I know, but it doesn't make it not.
I'm so pissed.
Can I redo mine now? I like this better.
That was amazing.
Shit, dude.
But on that note, thank you both for chilling with me. This was
Thank you.
a pretty
thanks for
long
having
show, but I'm really glad you both stuck it out with it. This is a fucking weird time. I mean, Nefas, you might or might not be a cyborg from what I can tell, because I don't think you do sleep, but...
I sleep about 3 or 4 hours at the moment.
Oh my god. That is brutal.
It's whatever.
I need my 8 hours.
I can't even imagine functioning on like less than hours.
Yeah. So I was streaming for 16 hours yesterday, up until like 10 or so a.m. And then I had an interview with that guy, the professor guy, at 2 p.m. So I had to wake up.
And then you were live for like 9 hours before joining me.
Yeah. So, yeah. And here I am. So,
See, you're still awake. Confirmed cyborg. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for both of your insights. That was really kind of everything I was hoping to touch on. That was a lot of fun, and you guys got some good points that I think hopefully people will enjoy listening to. As for this show, you can follow everything we do over at dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. There you can find links to social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Discord, and Spotify. I was going to say that's not on there for some reason. Be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork if you want to support the show, and consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify now that it's there. Thank you, everybody who has been doing so. That is greatly appreciated. And by doing so, you let people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes they matter. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Tales of Tamriel, and we will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
bye.
Bye-bye.
When Akatosh slew Lorcan, he ripped his heart right out. He hurled it across Tamriel, and the heart was heard to shout, red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. The laughing heart sprayed blood afar, a gout on Cyrodiil, and like a dart shot to its mark down in an alien well. Magicka fused the Lorcan blood to crystal red and strong. Then wild elves cut and polished it down to chimel at a ball. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. When elves lost Nirn to men, Akatosh gave the stone to Saint Alesh in token of her right to sit the throne. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. Red diamond, protect us till the end.